meant to reach this place. Two of us, walking into the dark. Two of us, against everything that followed. No cries, no pain, just silence. Swallowed by the abyss. I called your name until my voice broke. The void did not answer. They promised an end, a purpose, something waiting beyond the suffering. There is nothing here. Only ruin. Only the weight of everything that came before. And something else. Something that endured. I can feel it in the wind, in the stone, in the space where you should still be standing. This was never a simple journey. It wasn't waiting for me. It was waiting for us. Welcome to another special episode of Zapped to the Past. Yes, this is the 1992 Golden Breadbin Awards, where we celebrate, commiserate, and generally have a look. Celebrate, Graham. The celebration. Celebrate. Good times, everyone. Yeah. Avoid the fists of Eddie Thumper. And basically look back at the last year of games that we covered. It's this episode is brought to you by Stupid Sexy Bully, as we saw in the last episode. If you haven't seen that picture, I know he's like a sexy bully, isn't he? He's like, oh, it's like looking at me coyly right now. If you haven't seen that picture, go. It's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's on X, it's on Blue Sky. Just go have a look, or just look at the loading screen. Weirdly, the loading screen. That loading screen is nowhere to be seen on Lemon or Moby. Good. You have to go and get the game to have a look at it. That's where I saw it. That's the same bull nostrils that Gary, the podcast listener, when he's excited. Like last time weekends, that's what when he came out of the cinema, those are his exact eyes and nose flares. It wasn't. His tongue was lolling. He had a lolling tongue. He was giving it a bit of the old... There was a lot of air coming out of there. A lot of his nose hairs were like going, reaching out. They were. Anyway, it's that time of the year. It's that time of the thing. This is it. This is the last year's Golden Breadbin Awards. Crazy. As with everything at this point, I think we're starting to have more endings than Lord of the Rings. But it's another ending. This is the summation of the year. It is 1992. 1992 had an end, right? It had an end. Thank God. Is all I can say. Thank God. Yes. It ended. Well, Zzap ended, and that therefore we ended in November. And thank God. Thank God that we didn't have to do a December lot. The Christmas rush, you mean? It would have been something. Yeah. I don't know what it would have been. Exactly. Before we get into things, though, if you are listening to this at this point in time, you may be aware, or you may not. If you're not, I'm not sure where you've been, because we've been saying it for a while. We have a Kickstarter. We have a Kickstarter to do a book. That Kickstarter is easily found. It is simply zappedtothepastbook.com. If you type that into your browser, zappedtothepastbook.com, no spaces, just with a dot before .com, you will find our Kickstarter. Go sign up. That goes live on the 23rd of April.
Yay.
Which, as we're recording this, is next Friday, next week. And probably as you're hearing this, if you're hearing this next Monday, then it'll be the Friday coming. If you're hearing this on the Friday as a Patreon, it'll be next Friday.
Oh,
anyway,
God,
it's
time
23rd
travel
of April.
brain now.
I know,
dates
absolutely.
and times.
If you're hearing this in the past, if you're listening to this in June, if you just downloaded it, you missed it. You missed it. What were you doing? You missed it.
What were you doing? Oh,
what was you doing?
Missed it. But, what a cool thing you could have supported.
So that Kickstarter is a book based on the podcast where we are going to be reviewing 25 games, lots of cool illustrations by amazing artist SK Baker. We're going to be doing all the writing. We're going to be looking at crapverts. We're going to be looking at loading screen.
We're doing the typesetting as well. I'm choosing the typefaces. I'm very proud of that.
He is very, very proud of that.
I am.
I've had to listen to his commentary on the typesetting.
It's true. Very
more
true.
Than once. And each time it was just as interesting. But it's good for Graham. I can see the grin on his face right now about how happy he is that he's doing that. It's a big old grin.
It's very true.
He does love a good font. So zappedtothepastbook.com. Go and sign up right now if you can. Show your interest. It goes live. Get it early because there's early bird. There's special tiers. There's artwork. There's even I don't know. There's a pick a game.
There's options. Yeah, it's options.
There's options. You can pick a game. Only 2 you can do it though. Only 2. But you can pick a game if you're getting quick.
You can pick a game that we will go and look at again because it isn't again for us, and it will.
Because we know what you're going to pick.
Yeah, and I'm not promising that I'm going to suddenly like it because I know I won't. But.
No, probably not. But then again, there you go. So,
but that's what you're paying for. So
yeah,
okay.
You're paying for us in written form, basically. The Zap to the Past podcast in your hands.
Yes, very much so. From the provisional bits that we've done and the provisional artwork from SK Baker. It's looking amazing. Go to the Kickstarter and have a look at the pages that we've got in there and the examples and the samples and the mock-ups. It looks pretty cool. I'd want that on my shelf, so I'm happy with where we're going with that. I think it's a testament to a lot of hard work and suffering. So that's worth it for that alone.
Indeed, it is. It'll be a good, cool book. So go and have a look at that. There you go. Yes. We're probably going to tell you at the end of the end of this episode as well. But there you go. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/ZapToPass. Go sign up. The podcast isn't ending after these episodes. We are carrying on.
I think people think it is, and it's not ending.
I know it's not ending. We're carrying on, and actually, you probably get more for your money as a Patreon because we're going to be doing a Patreon only episode each month. So we are committing to
sign
that.
up.
So there you go. Sign up. Patreon. Patreon.com/ZapToPass.
We're still reviewing C64 games as well.
Yeah, we have a plan to look at Commodore 4 stuff.
Exactly, and
few months
after that, there's other stuff. There's Commodore 64 stuff everywhere. It's like strewn like beans at a really bad barbecue.
Yeah. What barbecues do you go to?
Bean related.
Bad ones.
Bad bean related.
Bad bean strewn ones. Anyway. But that's all that. We are here though for the Breadbin Awards. It's the 1992 Breadbin Awards. Do you want some stats, Graham, before we get into these?
Well, before that, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that you've inverted your mic on a microphone stand. That is properly... I didn't notice it till right now. That is like properly... That's a Grange Hill moment right there, that is.
Bow, bow, bow.
It is. That is properly like Zama was just poked a sausage into your view, wasn't he?
I'll tell you why I've done it. It's because I kept hitting the stand with my hand.
Yeah, that noise was annoying, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know, and it was annoying me. And because I'm a hand talker. I'm a gesticulator. When I talk, I like to talk with my hands, and so I'm doing it right now. And so I kept hitting the microphone stand. So what I've done is I've done it up and down. So there you go. So I shouldn't hit it anymore.
That is why you're a very successful horse whisperer, because they like a hands-on approach, don't they? In every area. They do. They're like the Shanks manipulating, and that's what you do. Let's move on anyway.
Yeah, don't my secret shame.
Horse shanking.
Horse shanking.
Anyway, we're off now. See ya.
We're off. Do you want some stats?
Yes, please. Quickly, please. Yeah.
Let's do some stats. Right, okay. Number of games this year, Graham, there were 101. 101, not the Depeche Mode album. Just the number of games. I'm actually surprised there was that many.
It felt like a lot more.
It did feel like a lot more, but it's down from last year's 128. It is the lowest number of games for a year. Obviously, we didn't have a December, but going by this rate, we'd have probably had 4 games or something, so who knows. Average number of games per month, 8.4. Should that be over 12? It's a year in it, but I suppose we should I might do that again.
It's over 11 months, though.
Yeah, let me do that again. 101 divided by 11. It's actually 9.2.
Oh, you and your maths.
I have a calculator button on my keyboard.
That's good.
Just bring it up.
It's incorrect, but it's good.
9.2. Anyway, the highest score this year was Creatures 2 with 97%.
Yeah, it was. It was one of the better games of the year, wasn't it? By proxy.
Yeah.
The other games took a step backward.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. In relation to everything else, it is probably 97%. In relation to everything else prior to 1992, I don't think it is worth 97%.
It's like saying it's the most polished shit, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. No,
it's good, but I mean, but in the sea of polished shite, it's the best of the polish.
Yeah, okay. Lowest score equals 10%. That was Fighting Soccer.
Ooh, eggy.
I think there were worse games than Fighting, but I'm going to give a heads up to listeners right now. The most contested category in this episode this year is the worst game.
It had to be, didn't it? Because it has been It has been the worst year of all.
Yeah, I've never known anything like it. So, Fighting Soccer got the lowest score at 10%. Will it win the lowest? Will it win the worst game?
Well, I don't know. This is the year we had a green Indiana Jones, so who knows where we're going with anything?
Who knows? This is the year we had a file effect simulator disguised as Match of the Day. We had a cricket scoreboard as a game. We did. We had a boomerang game that featured no boomerangs. We had all sorts of problems. Yeah, we did. So we'll get to that. Anyway, there were 3 gold medals. Creatures 2, 97%. Nobby the Aardvark at 96%. And Chuck Rock at 96%. Compared to only 2 last year. I can go with like I said, shit floats to the top, doesn't it? But at the same time, they're not shit games, to be fair. But I can see why those 3 are at the top of the floaty gold medal thing. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. It's gold medals, though. There were 13 Sizzlers compared to 16 last year. Silver medals seem to have been done away with. So within those Sizzlers... I thought they were. I did think they were. Yeah, they've been done. There was 1 game under 20%. Or there was one at 20%, but under 20% there was 1 compared to 2 last year. That was obviously Fighting Soccer. Okay. I find it amazing, absolutely incredible that there was only 1 game under 20%. It's staggering. It's staggering, honest. If I'm perfectly honest. The average review score was 70%, which is up 3% on last year. I think it's the highest average we've had. Get lost. No. Yeah, I know. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. There were no games to join the 99 club. No, well, it doesn't surprise me in this. No. The first game we reviewed was episode 199. That was Super Space Invaders. And our last game reviewed ever in episode 223 was Bullies Sporting Darts. And in Bullies Sporting Darts, yeah. 3-word names. They could be Steven Seagal films. I'd like to see the Steven Seagal film that was Bully Sporting Darts. That would be a good one. It's hard to kill. It's Bully Sporting Darts. Okay, there you go. That's our stats. Normally at this point, we take a moment to reflect on the year. We do. You got Graham? It's a short reflection. What a crap year. I thought it would be good. I hoped it would be good. If you listen back to the episode at the beginning of 1992, we were both kind of hopeful. 1991 had been a bit of a dog egg. But there was the odd, like has been the case for all of the years for the C64, there was the occasional good one. 1992, though, it didn't start so well, really. And it never got really that good. There was the occasional one, but it was very hit and miss. More miss than hit. And it was kind of, I know that the C64 was in its last legs, and I know that the development companies had all but abandoned it.
apart from a few, maybe Zeppelin, Codemasters, Thalamus, and maybe System 3, I think. Maybe there was the one.
Alternative as well.
Alternative. But I get it. It was all budget releases, and we've seen in the charts that we've had and the information that we've had that the budget releases were kind of, they were killing the mainstream games. And that's because the new games that were coming out were crap compared to the classics. Not a game amongst these lot is an equivalent of any game that really came out in the peak of 96-7. So, where is the game in 1992 that was going to beat IK Plus or Scarabaeus or Eidolon or any of the games that we've talked about, or The Train? There simply wasn't one. And I was kind of really hoping there would be, because I thought, and I didn't have a C64 in this time period. I'd moved to the Amiga. So this year, out of all the years of games that we had, this year was the year where I did not have a C64 equivalent. I had played them on the Amiga first. So it was a real shocking time, especially the arcade and the licensed conversions, which have been categorically shite. And especially the games that have been left to the same development teams that we know have problems. It's been shocking, really. The hardest category was the worst game. That tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Yep.
It's a bit of a tragedy. There is the occasional gem, and I mean occasional, but like with anything, we're polishing the turds really here. And that's not to say that there aren't some good, Creatures too, and there's a few at the top end of the league that are okay, in all fairness. They weren't buggy. They had some nice graphics, and there was a lot of leaning towards console-type graphics and platformers. We had more platformers this year than I think we've ever had. But the bizarre thing was that most of those platformers did not hit the mark of something like Gianna Sisters, which occurred earlier and was better than all of them. So what's weird is that they did not wholesalely learn the lessons from the earlier games. They just kind of converted what they had, and in some instances it worked okay. But in a lot of instances, it did not. And that's my take from the air. I have hated more games than I've liked. And that's a shame, because I was hoping 1992 would have been the year where I liked more than I hated, but it simply was not to be. But that's my thoughts on 1992. So there you go. About you?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same ballpark. It's been a very, very disappointing year. There's been the odd moments of, this is quite interesting. This game I'd never heard of, and there's some weirdness about it, and there's some stuff like that. But the vast majority has just been, it's budget. It's budget alley, in it. So we've said really pretty much from the start. I remember, what was that game? What was that game earlier on? It was that golf game, Hole in One. And I remember you saying about Hole in One, right? Way back in the day. You were like, what were you expecting? It's a budget game. You get £2 worth a game, £3 worth a game. And when your majority of your games are budget, then you get budget games, and they're not. Some of them stand out. You get the odd one that stands out. You get your Thrust, or you get your CJ's, Elephant Antics and stuff. But the majority are just budget games, and they that's what they do. That's what they are. So it's been a disappointing year. It's been a painful year. It's been a depressing year. It's been a year where I've sat down at my computer going, I've got to play through these games. And it's been a struggle at times. I'm not going to lie. It's been a struggle at times to actually get through these games, to write some solid reviews about them and try and come up with something that's vaguely interesting about half of them, because there were so many, like you said, platform games that were just boring. Tai Chi Tortoises, those kind of things. Or there were so many variants of CJ's Elephant Antics. It's like they found a template and just stick different graphics in it, call it something else. We've seen so many of them, and it's like, and then there's so many bad games. There's the odd ray of sunshine and the odd ray of light and the odd decent thing that popped up every now and again in a sort of interesting ways. But for the final year of the podcast, I always had a feeling it was going to be a bell curve of quality, with the obviously not quite, but the bell curve was going to be high in that 85, 86, 87, 88, and then drop. I didn't realize it was going to drop quite so far. And it's been a tough, and it's only been 25 episodes, which is the shortest span of episodes so far, but it feels like the longest. But we're done. So we're done. So there you go. That's what I think of 1992. That's what I think of you, Harvey. There you go. Shall we get to some awards? Because I think neither of us particularly want to string this out too long. Let's get to some awards. Let's get to our very, very first award for 1992. That award is Best Visuals. As ever, we've done this in the same way as we've done it for the last previous years. We voted for our own nominations. We put them together. Anything that we both voted for is in the final contention. Anything that either one of us just voted for gets an honorary mention. The honorary mentions this year are Bod Squad, which was nice. I thought there were some nice visuals in Bod Squad. There's some good stuff there. Dylan Dog, which had quite a nice, unique, interesting look. Lots of kind of interstitial thing. And Potsworth & Co. With some really nice high-res sprites and stuff and animations and things going on in that. But they weren't enough to chill both of us up. But what were the games that we both felt were worthy of consideration, and in this order are Creatures 2, Torture Trouble, Nobby the Aardvark, First Samurai, Daffy Duck, and Demon Blue.
Okay.
So where do we go with those 5?
I think First Samurai is a good shout for best visuals, because that was nice looking, wasn't it?
It was very nice looking. Yeah, it was the best thing about it.
And I think Daffy Duck's probably an honorary mention in there, but even though it wasn't released, I think that would look pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. All of them look nice. That's why they're in contention.
I think if I'm going to pick a 3, and this is, it's always challenging because Nobby the Aardvark was good. I'm going to compare Nobby the Aardvark with Creatures 2 because they're kind of similar in their kind of way. I think Creatures 2 had the edge on it because Creatures 2 did have those really nice sprites all the way through. Nobby the Aardvark was a little bit less polished than Creatures 2, I think. I think Creatures 2 over Nobby the Aardvark. I think First Samurai has to be in there because they are really nice versions of the Amiga graphics, and the Amiga version was good, and the C64 version held its own there. I think if I'm going to compare Daffy Duck and Demon Blue had some nice graphics.
That's some very nice visuals.
But Daffy Duck was, I think, better because it actually looked like Daffy Duck, didn't it? It was more complete.
I think that's one of the things we said about it.
Exactly. So as a 3, I think Creatures 2, First Samurai, and Daffy Duck aren't a bad 3. But what do you think to that?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I remember us talking about Demon Blue and being quite impressed with the visuals. And when I went look back at them, obviously it's a weird flick screen thing. There's some odd stuff in it. The title's going to be odd, but there's some really, really good use of color and shading in the game's backdrops on that game. That I remember sort of remarking on at the time. And I had a look again, and some of it's really, really interesting use of color to give sort of a kind of chromium effect across some of the some of those background elements. And there's some really good stuff there which I like. And in defense of Nobby the Aardvark, I think Nobby the Aardvark is one of those games. Because I think Nobby the Aardvark and Daffy Duck are in sort of contention against each other to some degree, in the fact that they're a very, very good. Although Daffy Duck has that sort of high-res Daffy Duck, but Nobby the Aardvark is a really good example of medium res. Quality medium res stuff across the machine, and it's a very good. And what I like about Nobby the Aardvark as well is its variety. It's different viewpoints. There's a 3D viewpoint. There's the balloon stuff. There's kind of some weird bits and bobs and stuff in it, which I think is quite good. Creatures 2 is consistently excellent, and across all of it, from the T2 or the C2 intro, which is really good, to the dancing Nobbies. Sorry, the dancing creatures, the dancing Clydes. As the sort of interstitial with boom, that's really good. All those kind of interstitial animations, they're great. First Samurai, some really, really good pixel art, really good. A very good example of downporting from the Amiga. I don't know, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because they're all quite different. But I think if I was to do a 3 for this, it would be Creatures, Nobby, and First Samurai.
Yeah, I still wouldn't put Nobby in there. I think Nobby is a bit for colour for me. I think Demon Blue is better. Demon Blue reminds me of Cybernoid and that Cybernoid style, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
And Demon Blue and First Samurai share that kind of shading of the Cybernoid type visuals. And I think Creatures 2 has that as well, but Creatures 2 seems to have a more extensive palette. So for me, it would be Creatures 2, First Samurai, and Demon Blue out of the 3. I think Daffy Duck's great, and Daffy Duck does look nice, but does it look as nice as First Samurai? No. First Samurai has just a subtle shading and more layers of it, and so does Demon Blue. I think Nobby the Aardvark is a bit more like the Flintstones, and more of that kind of sort of 4-colour. It's okay, but it's 4-colour kind of more aligned to. Yeah,
you're probably right. You're probably right.
It's more aligned to that kind of more 8-bit experience. I think the others look a little bit more polished than that, but I wouldn't put First Samurai at the top. I think, if I'm honest, I would put Creatures 2 at the top, Demon Blue second, and First Samurai third, I think. I'm going to pick a 3.
Yeah, I can go behind that. I think Creatures 2, I think the variety in Creatures 2, there's lots of stuff going on there. And I think First Samurai and Demon Blue, to me, they're kind of, those backgrounds are interchangeable. The sprites are pretty good. I'd put First Samurai, I don't know. The thing with Demon Blue is it has that title screen, doesn't it, where he's climbing out that brown hole, which just puts me off a little bit.
Yeah, that's nasty, but the graphics in the game are good.
The graphics in the game are very good. So what, you'd put Demon Blue as second or First Samurai second?
I would put Creatures 2 at the top. I think First Samurai's graphics are better in the realm of being a First Samurai game, so I'd have that second. And I would have Demon Blue third, because Demon Blue's a lot like Cybernoid in the sense they've got multi-layered,
it's like a cross between Cybernoid and Stormlord, isn't it? With some of the
exactly, and that's no bad thing, because I mean those are two amazing looking games. But I think First Samurai also borrows from that aesthetic. I think it just suits a First Samurai game better, and Creatures 2, I think, above all of them, because it's just kind of cute and neat and does all those things that it really needs to do. So Creatures 2, First Samurai, and Demon Blue, I think. Yeah,
fair enough. I think I can get behind that. I'm not going to argue too much, because I think that you're probably right.
That's an easier one.
Yeah, you've convinced me, because I do like Demon Blue. I do. Looking back at that one, I was looking back at that today, and I was thinking, God, that really did look very good. That shading on those backgrounds is really nice. But then I looked at First Samurai as well, and it does similar sort of things. But I think there's just a bit more variety in there in Creatures 2, and it's just a bit more fun. And it's just a bit different from time to time. And it has also that amazing snow.
Yeah, you've got the snow effect in there. The jungle scenes are really nice. It's got variety. It's just nicely done. The underwater sequence is quite nice. It's very Mario, has to be said, but they're nice looking levels. They're very Mario levels, actually, when you think about it, and that's no bad thing. They've obviously played and watched a lot of the Super Mario World games and borrowed from that heavily, and that's fine. As long as you do it, a service, and they do. So I think Creatures 2, First Samurai, and Demon Blue isn't a bad trio. I mean, they're quite good company to be in. So
yeah, they're very good looking games, and all those Daffy Duck, Nobby Dadvac, Potsworth, Dylan Dog, Bod Squad, they're all very good looking games as well.
Yeah,
over the year, but I think those three are a worthy triple winners. So Graham, would you like to announce the winner for the best visuals?
Visuals for the Breadbin Awards of 1992. The winner is Creatures 2, Torture Trouble, with the runners-up First Samurai and Demon Blue. Woo. Well done, Creatures
Roland.
2.
Well done, Roland. Well done,
Roland. Well done, Roland.
Well done, indeed. Yeah. There you go. That's a good one to start off with, and I think Creatures 2 is a worthy winner there. Very good. Yeah. Cool. That was quick. That was easy.
Easy peasy.
Let's move on to our next category. And this is going to be I don't know, is it going to be a hard fight? This is the Crapcade Conversion. And pretty much we just agreed on the same 3.
Yeah, I think that's the key. We agreed on the 3, but do we agree on the 1?
No, I don't know, because I think there were only like 5 arcade conversions this year.
I thought there were more, but there's more licensed games. But
there were more licensed games. Let me just check. Hang on a minute. I've got this sort of spreadsheet up here. So let's put the 0 though. Sorry, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 8. There were 8. But these 3, that's not a lot, really. 8, considering the amount we've had in previous years. But these 3, they took these crapcadeness to a new nadir. And those 3, there's the 3 we voted for. We all
these
agreed.
Are the 3.
G-Lock, Cisco Heat, and Fighting Soccer.
Oh, those 3 are bad.
I mean, there's an argument that any one of these could be the winner.
So I think when I look at that list, because there's only 3, and we agreed on those 3. We didn't out of the few that there were, that was it. It's just about which one you think is the crappiest version of the arcade initially, isn't it? So, I mean, Fighting Soccer has to be in the top tier because it is utterly shite. And I think if I was going to do a triple, I would say probably I can't decide between Cisco Heat or Fighting Soccer at the top. G-Lock's probably the 3rd though, and that's because G-Lock is of the arcade. It's shite, but there is, and you can do a 360 in it. I didn't know you could, but apparently you can, according to our patrons.
Yeah, you can if you go on a difficulty level up.
So,
but it's still shit.
It was utterly shit. It was hopeless. The 8-bit computer of the C64, the CPU, was never going to be able to do a decent version of that ever. Now, can you say the same for Fighting Soccer or Cisco Heat? Well, with Fighting Soccer, it was already done. Micropro Soccer had already proved that you could do a decent arcade-style soccer game. Didn't need the fighting part. So it was already done. So Fighting Soccer is crap, and crap because it had already been done. Cisco Heat was also crap. Those awful graphics and that gameplay.
Oh, it's dreadful.
So G-Lock is going to be, for me, is going to be third because it is not the worst arcade conversion. It's not good. I mean, that is not saying anything. It's crap and it's horribly jerky and it's naff graphics and everything that you don't want in an arcade conversion. But it should never have been attempted for the C64 in a million years. But they did, and that's why it's third. So the real fight for me is between Cisco Heat and Fighting Soccer.
Yeah. Cisco Heat, I would say Cisco Heat is shit, but like Fighting Soccer, you had Micropro Soccer. Cisco Heat, we'd had Power Drift. To show that there could have been a version of this that could have been done, because we said Power, because Boogie Boy, Power Drift, these games
had racing games really, they've been done, haven't they?
Yeah, Turbo Outrun, Outrun Europa, Turbo Charge. These games had shown that the C64 could do a semi-decent thing.
More, doesn't it?
So Cisco Heat, there's no reason for it, even if it they'd have gone down that route and gone, well, yeah, it's not arcade perfect, but it's still this decent racing game. It's so bad, and my gut. As bad as Fighting Soccer is, there was moments where I could somehow play football and I couldn't do anything with Cisco Heat. It was so crap. And it's so easy and so simple and crap.
I think you're right. I think based purely on the fact that Cisco Heat is a crap game anyway, and the C64 version is crap, it was put together with no passion. It is awful. It is crappy and awful with really shit graphics and everything else. I think out of the Crapcade conversions, it is the worst conversion. Fighting Soccer is crap. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is really bad. But Cisco Heat is a racing game. And racing games have been around on the C64 since the conversions of the really early arcade games. Some of the earliest games on the C64. Yeah, exactly. Pole position. And
Pit Stop 2.
Pit Stop 2s and the pit stops. No, that is a tried and tested trope of the C64. And it's proved time and time again that it can do it. Now, that's not to say that Fighting Soccer doesn't do the same thing for football games, but that came later. The earliest games on the C64, some of the earliest games are the racing games, and they were better than Cisco Heat. So I think, following your fine descriptions, that Cisco Heat is number 1, Fighting Soccer number 2, and G-Lock number 3 for me, I think.
I agree. I think Cisco Heat is one of the biggest piles of shit I've seen on the machine. It's a dreadful thing.
As far as arcade conversions go, yeah, it's absolutely awful. And it was full price as well. You just, you are just literally being wanked off with a cheese grater. Nobody wants that. It's awful.
No, that's Frisco Heat.
It really is, yeah. So I think that's the trio. Cisco Heat deservedly deserves the contempt of everybody that listens to this podcast. Don't go and play it. It's utterly, utterly shite and a really bad arcade conversion. Fighting Soccer, equally so, but they just learned the lessons later. And G-Lock, well, it should never have been done. No, somebody should have stepped in and gone, don't do that, because, look, we tried it with Afterburner and Afterburner 2. The dog eggs were plentiful then.
Yeah, they don't work.
Let's not try and rotate the screen 360 on a C64. Nothing good can come of that. It doesn't really do that very well. And they proved it in tests. So, no, I think that's the 3 for me. Cisco Heat as the winner, and the runner-up, clearly, Fighting Soccer and G-Lock. And there's only 3 in there. So is that your alignment?
That is my alignment. I think that's a fair awfulness of horror. But Cisco Heat is a new low
thing.
Yeah. I mean, is it the worst Crapcade conversion I've ever seen? It's one of them. It's certainly up there. I remember playing it and going, Jesus Christ on a bike. What do I,
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there you go. There we go. That was easy enough. But there's only 3 to choose from, and they were all shit. They were. But one was particularly shit. So, Graham, please let us know the winner of the Crapcade conversion.
The winner of the Crapcade conversion for 1992 in the Zapped to the Past Breadbins is Cisco Heat. Boo. Boots. Egg. Boots. Egg. With runner-ups for Fighting Soccer and G-Lock. Exactly. Thumped in the stomach by Eddie Thumper. Oh, egg.
Yep.
Massive egg. So much egg. So much egg.
Massive egg in. Oh, let's continue. Let us continue with the dreadfulness because let's move to the next one. And that next one, well, it's the worst game.
This was a challenge, this, in that lot.
So the worst game, this might take the most time, I think, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 we have both voted for, and four dishonourable mentions. In total. So the dishonourable mentions were Toki. I didn't think Toki was that bad, was it?
Yeah, it was.
All right. Zoomerang.
Confusing, that was.
Yeah, it was crap. Tarzan Goes Ape. Yeah, that was crap.
He didn't.
No, and G-Lock.
No, okay, that's fair.
But up for consideration for the worst game for this year, for 1992, we have Murray Mouse Super Cop, Bionic Ninja, Nightbreed, Biff, Soccer Pinball, Bigfoot,
Egg,
Match of the Day, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, Count Duckula 2, Phileas Fogg's Balloon Battles,
Incomprehensible,
Steiger,
Crap, Steiger,
Cisco Heat,
Egg,
World Cricket,
Rubbish,
and Fighting Soccer.
Oh, God, so.
Where do you start?
Goodness me! I mean, where do you go with that? Is it the greenness of the crappy sprites of Indiana Jones and a game that wasn't based on anything? The Filofaxes of Match of the Day, the crappy sprite horror of the Bigfoots,
Count Duckula 2,
and the Count Duckula 2, that awful platform and the shoot 'em up level. The balloon craziness of the confusing blow from which direction on the balloons.
that I couldn't. I still have nightmares about trying to control that. Just dreadful. The crappy Steiger.
I'm going to rule out Cisco Heat, Fighting Soccer, because they were in the previous category for arcades. I'm just going to take them out because they've already been in the running.
I'll slim this down. I'll copy them out. I'll take them out, put them in the
And I'd say the same about G-Lock in the bottoms. And I wouldn't rush to put Tarzan Goes Ape was utterly crap. But Tarzan Goes Ape and Bigfoot were basically the same game, weren't they? I think.
No. Tarzan Goes Ape was that crappy vertical scrolling thing. Bigfoot was that shitty flick screen platformer.
Oh, that's right, with the bad jump
thing.
That's right. But there was a Tarzan Goes Ape, and it was like another game that we played that was very similar.
Yeah, Bangers and Mash.
So Murray Mouse Super Cop was a crappy Spectrum conversion in the world of crap Spectrum conversions, wasn't it? And it was crap.
Yeah, it was.
Bionic Ninja was bloody awful. Nightbreed.
Nightbreed is dreadful. We've recently heard new information on Nightbreed, which we'll get to when we get to our Patreon awards, about the loading system on Nightbreed as well.
For on a tape, which was bad.
On a tape, which sounds really bad.
I'm going to say this, right? I'm going to say just out of the blue, I'm going to say Soccer Pinball because it's a stupid idea.
But it's that craziest concept, which is not actually in. Maybe we should put that down there.
Yeah, that maybe should be.
Shall I take that out? Put it into craziest concept?
Well, no, because there's crazier concepts in there.
Oh, there is.
Worst game? I don't know. Because, all right, so Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis was at least an Indiana Jones game. He was green and it was crap, but it was Indiana Jones. Okay.
It was isometric and you couldn't do anything. It was awful.
Count Duckula, though. Count Duckula, I think, needs to be in the top tier.
I think so.
It is utterly shit.
Yep.
So I think Count Duckula needs to be in the top. I don't know where yet, but in the top. I have to say, Phileas Fogg's Balloon Battles. Now, is that a worst game or is that a craziest concept? I don't know.
I mean, we've got it nominated for crazy concept, so I'm happy to sort of give it its due there. But if I had to pick a 3 from these, it would be Count Duckula 2, Bigfoot, and if we're having it, Soccer Pinball.
Soccer Pinball has to be in there. I
think Count Duckula 2 and Soccer Pinball are a world apart. I hated Bigfoot so much.
Yeah. I mean, for me, Murray Mouse is very much up there with the Dizzies. And if we were going to criticize Murray Mouse, all the Dizzy games would be in there because they're all the same.
Yeah, they would be. Yeah.
So I think we'll take Murray Mouse out of the list.
Stupid Seymour at the movies, whatever
and
it was.
And the Seymour games, exactly. Nightbreed.
That was awful.
That was bloody awful. So that could be in the top 3. So it might be a Nightbreed, Soccer Pinball, and Count
Nightbreed
Duckula 2.
might get its due in license catastrophe.
I was just thinking that. So Count Duckula 2 definitely. And I think Steiger, though, was utterly shite, wasn't it?
Are we thinking? Steiger was. Are we thinking Soccer Pinball in there as well?
I think Soccer Pinball has to be. Soccer Pinball has to be in worst game.
What's the third?
Biff was pretty bad, but Biff was another one of the.
It's picking from the less stinkiest turd. You know,
it is. How much turd do you want to get? How much do you want to get under your fingernails? Isn't it? We need one, don't we?
It squidges into your knuckle cracks.
And we just need one, don't we, in there? And I don't know. Phileas Fogg's going to be in the loony category for me. Steiger
was a day in World Cricket as well.
Steiger was a crap game. World Cricket was a crap game, but licensed.
So that's why I'm thinking Bigfoot or Biff.
It's got to be one. Well, they're basically almost the same sort of shit, aren't they? Rubbish.
What was Biff?
Bigfoot was Bigfoot. I think it's actually Bigfoot. I think is because Bigfoot was the one that had the really bad jump that you couldn't do anything in, and it didn't work. The game was broken. So
yes. Biff was that shitty Spectrumish platformer.
Exactly, which was like Murray Mouse.
Trapped in a hole. Yeah. So my vote would go to Bigfoot. I think Bigfoot is one of the worst travesties I've ever witnessed. I
think for 1992, I think that Bigfoot needs to be in there. Now, out of those 3, Bigfoot, Count Duckula 2 and Soccer Pinball, I'm tempted to say the worst game out of those ones, which really enraged me, was probably Count Duckula 2.
I'm with you. I am with you.
Because it is shit.
I've never known anything like it. It amazed me that something so bad could be made.
Because this was I think it was full price, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it was full price. This was released late in the license's life. Nobody wanted it. Nobody cared about it.
No, it was a budget. It was a budget £4 game.
It was a budget game. But it was released on the back of a game that was better. The budget of Count Duckula was better than Count Duckula 2. It was a different team, a team that is useless. Nah, I'd say the winner is Count Duckula 2, and I think a runner-up would be Soccer Pinball and then Bigfoot for me.
Yes.
That's very close. That's a very close call between Soccer Pinball and Bigfoot, I have to say. There's not much between them.
Yeah, and it's only because some of the others are going to get their dues in other categories.
Yeah, exactly that.
Where they're going to get them. Yeah. But I think for original... Count Duckula 2 could fit into Licensed Catastrophe as well, and it very well may do. But it is so shit. It's like it's like this year's Dick Tracy, which won across multiple categories.
It's really bad.
It's so bad, Count Duckula. And what
score
did it get? And the thing is, right, it got 55%.
No.
That's what about these stupid averages when I looked at them. Like, Jesus Christ, that's bad.
They're just making shit up, so.
Yeah, okay. Count Duckula 2 first. I think it's so bad. It's awful. Soccer Pinball second. Bigfoot third. Out of a bag that you don't want to step on that's outside your front door, those are the ones that stink up the most.
Yep.
Yeah. So Graham, it is your duty, no less, to announce the winner of our worst game for 1992.
The winner of the worst game for 1992, which was a category we used to call Sunday Best, I believe. But it's now the worst game. The winner, of course, is Count Duckula 2. Utterly crap. And the runners-up here are, the runners down, Soccer Pinball and Bigfoot. Equally crap.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what we thought. 1992 did not give us a lot of great games anyway, but the worst game out of that, you have to be bad for that. Count Succular Poo.
Yay!
Yay!
You did it! Woo! Oh, there you go. That's it. That's the worst game. We're going to go wait. We're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll get into more interesting stuff because we've done the worst game and the Crapcade Conversion. So please do stick with us. We've got more awards to come after this.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Crash landing on a green planet full of vector graphics, can Sarah find a way to escape for real? Or is she stranded on a planet full of sun, sea, and chippy tea forever? Imagine finding yourself in a cinematic karate game, having to rescue a princess or remain stuck under the run-stop key forever. What about finding yourself on a space freighter full of robots? Could you clear the decks? If you were transported back to a Wild West town, having to round up outlaws, could you survive until sunset? What if you were a wizard with a cat who must colour worlds? Could you beat the game, or would a virtual guitar solo announce your demise? Sarah might just be another visitor, but she doesn't want to stay a while, never mind forever. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, discover if there's a way out in Escape from the Commodore 64. Visit davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
And we're back. After Best Visuals, Crapcades, and Worst Games, we're going to take hopefully an upbeat tone here as we talk about the best audio. The best audio for 1992. And as ever, we came up with some nominations. We had 5 between us that we both voted, either one of us voted for. 4 that we both did, though. Those nominations, the nearly rans, all had good audio. They were RoboCop 3, that was quite good. That was quite good. Nobby the Aardvark. Good suite of tunes, especially in its middle sections. I thought Dylan Dog. Which had a nice atmospheric section of tunes as well and stuff. That was pretty good. Steg. again, another good series of tunes in Steg, and finally Frankenstein. Late entry, but with a decent wardrobe of tunes. But we didn't vote for both of them. Both of us didn't vote for them, sorry. But we both voted for the following. We both voted for Creatures 2, Torture Trouble. Steve Rowland, I think. We both voted for Alien World.
Yeah.
That's Julian Potts.
It is.
We both voted for, I'm just trying to, I don't write these down, so I'm trying to quickly see who did that. We both voted for Santa's Xmas Caper. Which was Mark Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And we also both voted for Demon Blue. was Adam Gilmore. So, Steve Rowland. Have we seen Steve Rowland in the awards before? I'm not sure we voted for him in anything else.
No,
Maybe
we haven't.
Popped up before, but certainly the others. New Bloods. I think we might have had Julian Potts pop up before. I think did he do Bomb Fusion years ago?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
But anyway,
Japmaster.
So Creatures 2. Yeah, Creatures 2, Alien World, Santa's Xmas Caper, Demon Blue. Got a favourite? Got a preference? Got a thought?
I have to say, it's a bit of a stinky year for the music. There's some good stuff in there in its own way. And some of the tunes that were in that list, very similar, very hubbardly, hubbardly. So the Ashley Hogg stuff, I think that's in there is very hubbardly. And there's a couple of tunes in there that felt that way to me. They felt very similar. I think they're even using Hubbard's Player or something similar because they sound very similar to that. The ones that don't, Creatures 2 sounds, Creatures 2 is very rhythmic and it ties in really well to the thematic of the game.
Yes.
So you get that kind of,
and that's sweet music,
yeah,
that is.
Yeah, it is. And you can't really deny that. It sits perfectly in the game. Alien World, I think, is the longest piece out of all of those. I think about 6 or 7 minutes.
8 minutes, just under.
And that's the Japmaster one, which is, that's Julian Potts. And that's very Hubbardy as well when you get into it. Very Hubbard-like. I think Santa's Christmas Caper, there's one good tune in there, which is the kind of the Joy to the World, which is all right. It's all right. And
I thought the music was great in Santa's Xmas Caper.
And Demon Blue, okay, Demon Blue isn't bad either. And that's from a very talented musician for the C64 as well, which is Adam Gilmore, of course.
Yeah.
I would have liked Robocop 3 to have been in that top because that's Karoom Tell, and that is a really great piece of music out of that list. I wouldn't say it was the greatest of all time, but it's out of that list.
Nothing's out. If you can convince me about Robocop 3, about why that would be up there, I was not a huge fan of it, but I'm willing to bend to it if you think it should be in there.
I think Robocop 3 is a better overall piece of music in terms of the way it's constructed for the C64 with its nice arpeggiations, with its construction, with its complexity than something like Santa's Christmas Caper, which is basically a Christmas Carol redo.
Yeah.
Robocop 3 is an original piece of music, and it does kind of it's very Tim Follin style for Haroon Tell. And I think it's a really good piece of that kind of music. And it's got a nice kind of... After you get over the nice arpeggiation there, it's got this really nice intro sequence. It's unusual. And that sort of sits well with the Robocop series, because if you remember, Robocop was, I think, the original one was using an advert and, So I think Robocop 3 probably deserves to be in the list more than something like Santa's Christmas Caper, which had one tune that was good. The others are okay, don't get me wrong. And then they sort of suit the game, which is a Christmassy game, don't get me wrong. And the Joy to the World's okay. But we've heard that kind of thing on the C64 plenty of times before. We have not heard a Robocop 3 before. So I personally would place that in there. I think Creatures 2 de facto is the best audio out of the lot because it's the most aligned to its game. And that's pretty important. And I think Alien World also is a really good piece of music that kind of aligns to the game. So as a 3, for me, I would say Creatures 2, Robocop 3, and Alien World out of that list. And then that's challenging because I like Demon Blue, but there's more music for all of the others than Demon Blue. So that would be for me. Now, if I look down at the other ones, Frankenstein's not a bad piece of music, all said and done. It's got that nice, Devil's Trio, whatever it is. Steg was okay. Dylan Dog's an interesting option in there. It's a little bit sparse, though. And Nobber the Aardvark is just not quite... There's lots of short collections of 1 minute 10 and less. I think if I'm going for best audio in a completeness, I think Creatures 2 probably has to win it by proxy of it having the most audio. And I think if I was going to do
high quality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if I was going to do a close second and third, I would say Alien World would be the second and Robocop 3 would be the third because they contain complete pieces of music. Alien World is, I think, 6-7 minutes. Robocop 3 is at least 5 or 6. I think that's where I would sit because they're just full pieces of music. They're not a minute 22 or a shorter loop. Full pieces of music. And I'm going for that in best audio as well as sound effects. Okay. So that's where I'd land with those. What about you?
I'm not going to fight that. I mean, because I think the reason I'm not going to fight that is because I don't have strong feelings one way or the other with any of the music, particularly this year. Nothing really stuck in my head.
It's been a struggle.
The bits I remember most was Frankenstein, because we probably played it last week. And there's some couple of good bits of music in that, and I like the fact that it had different pieces of music for each location, and they were all quite atmospheric. Dylan Dog did something similar. It was again an atmospheric one. I listened to Steg, so that was quite nice. Nobby the Advax middle section, so the underwater bit, the Atlantis bits, I think
it is good.
And the bit on the Mars, I think they're really, really good. The rest not quite so strong. Daffy Duck as well, I thought maybe could have been in there, but I didn't mention that. But I think you're right. Alien World's got a really good tune. RoboCop 3 is a good tune. I mean, the one that stuck in my head most is because I probably heard it most before is Santa's Xmas Caper, because it's it's in Dutch Jubilee. Oh, not in Dutch Jubilee. Joy to the World, sorry. And it was just a really good version of that. I remember playing it going, God, this is dead Christmassy. And I was sort of like quite happy about that because it was Christmassy, and it was like, cool. But Creatures 2 Torture Trouble, it wins because of the dun 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 dun. That's when they all come bouncing on. It's great.
Yeah.
So it is a really good, strong suite of music. I will just caveat that with none of these are getting anywhere near the Breadbin of Breadbin's top music.
No. I think that's fair to say. It's nice to see newer composers in the list.
It is.
And it's also nice to see one of the older composers. You're not going to get a Ben Daglish or a Martin Galway or a Hubbard. They're long since departed here. So the Ashley Hoggs and your Adam Gilmore's and a few of the others, it's nice to see them in there. But with RoboCop 3, you're in Haroon Tell territory. The guy never really created a bad tune in his life. Yeah. And I'll give him credit for that. I'll give him credit for that. He was, he'd have been by this point 19, 20. Credit where credit's due. This probably wasn't even written for RoboCop 3, but credit where credit's due. It's good, but is it? Creatures 2 is just so on the money, and you can't argue it. As soon as it starts and you see those little creatures dancing on,
And it's got that great C2 intro as well. It's a very good version of that.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Exactly.
There's lots of good stuff in Creatures 2.
It works in the same way that Lemmings kind of works with its, the music suits the game, suits the theme, suits the graphics. So, yeah, I think that's a worthy winner. And I think the runner's up there. Yeah. But it's not a great field. No, it was hard to pick. Some of the games in 1992 didn't even have audio. So
no, exactly. We had silence for quite some of them. So
we did.
But there you go. I'm happy with that. I'll go with those. Graham, would you like to announce the winner for Best Audio 1992?
The winner of the Best Audio. No, I didn't like that.
I'm glad you did that.
For 1992. And the Golden Breadbin Awards from Zapped the Past is Creatures 2, Torture Trouble. Torture Trouble. With the runners-up being Alien World and RoboCop 3, That's what they were.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah,
and take a thump for your trouble.
Oh, it's what he does.
Eddie Thumper. Oh, he liked Steg, but you can't have everything.
No, you can't. Let's move on to our next award. And that one, Graham, this is our craziest concept.
Oh, God, this award.
Always a winner. I always like this one because it's like, what the hell? Because this is the one where we rub our heads and try to pat our bellies at the same time. We had four. We all voted for these four. We both voted for them because
we did.
They win for various reasons. And we had Zoomerang.
We did.
Match of the Day.
Yep.
Phileas Fogg's Balloon Battles.
Yep.
And World Cricket.
Okay. I'm going to say this right off the bat. Match of the Day needs to be in the top 3.
I'm not going to argue.
It's a file of facts based football management game. It was a stupid, crazy concept. Stupid.
Yeah. So was the cricket scoreboard game.
Yeah, exactly. And World Cricket deservedly in there because it was the game fundamentally based on the scoreboard of a thing. That's crap. Imagine if basketball was done that way. Just watching a basketball and go, wow, we scored. Oh, they've scored now. I think Phileas Fogg's Balloon Battles, because it was incomprehensible the way the wind was blowing in that thing. It was so stupid. It was such a stupid idea. Now, Zoomerang was confusing because it made no sense. But confusing and crazy are different things, I think.
I didn't understand it. You were moving back and forth and you were trying to control this thing, but you couldn't. Yeah, it was stupid. But I would quite happily match of the day Phileas Fogg, Will Cricket as our three.
Yeah,
I think
so Zoomerang was conceptually bizarre. Was it crazy? It wasn't crazy. What they tried to do was like, a mirror bounce type thing. All right, I get that. It didn't work because you're stupid arseholes.
Yeah, can't design shit for shit.
Exactly, you can't do shit. But match of the day, Phileas Fogg and World Cricket, get in that crazy concept, you crazy, stupid, crazy game.
Yeah. Now, if I'm going to say what I think the winner should be, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Phileas Fogg.
Yeah.
Because
I'm not going to argue.
A wind-based dropping bombs guy about is it Philly? Right. Phileas Fogg is about a guy who travels around the world in 80 days.
Yes, it is.
In various forms of transport.
Yes.
At no point, and that I remember, is he floating around in an airship dropping bombs on stuff. I don't think.
No.
I don't remember that.
No. He's in a balloon at one point, but not.
He's in a balloon at one point. Yeah, so he's not in a balloon battle. And at no point did anyone think, and this is the weird thing, I can't remember, I think it's Jonathan, what's his face, the guy who did a lot of the visuals for CJ's Elephant Antics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's an interview with him where he did the visuals for this, and he did say that he said to him, he says, this what he tried to sort of advise on the game design, but they didn't listen to him. And he went, I don't want anything to do with this, I just did the visuals. And the visuals are quite nice. But the concept of controlling a balloon with wind at 4 different layers that you don't know, which changes randomly, and you're who thought this was a good idea? At any point, did anyone go, "This is stupid"?
This is up there with the shifting UI of Slonia.
Yeah, yes, it's infuriatingly. Yeah, I don't get it. The crazy concept being like, well, it's Phileas Fogg. He's in a balloon. Okay, he's not dropping bombs though. Well, he is now. Okay, so he's just going to fly around. Yeah, but there's wind at 4 different levels that blows you in different directions that changes every few seconds, so you can't control it.
No.
You're insane. You're insane, madman.
No, in the world of the stupid, this is the game that won Game of the Year, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't get it. I can't. When I played at the time, I was like, what? Who thought this? It physically makes me angry, because there's a decent little dropping bombs game in there, but then they just went crazy.
But there's a few concepts that don't marry together. Don't make a game about balloon bombing and then make it controlled by the bloody wind. Don't do that, because who's controlling it then? If you're not controlling it and the wind just basically controlling it, nobody's controlling it. So you've got no real control over this. So you just kind of floated around, maybe dropping bombs. It was awful, awful, awful. Yes, the graphics were okay, fine. But we've seen that a lot. In 1992, there was a lot of games that had average graphics, but the game design was clearly made by Aurak when he was very troubled in Blake 7.
Poor old Aurak.
Yeah, he was not a game designer. He could tell the future. He was thinking, I don't know. He's troubled. But challenging him to create a C64 game wasn't the best thing you could have done. Avon, I'm looking at you.
No, yeah. And let's give the others their due. So let's talk about, we've got Phileas Fogg, we've done that. Let's talk about Match of the Day. Now, I said when I did the review of Match of the Day that if you give anybody, you say, right, we've got a license here for Match of the Day, full price. Okay, so what kind of game do you want? Well, it's football, isn't it? It's football highlights. So, you're playing a football game. So we're going to have some football game in it, yeah? No. Well, and no. So what are we going to have in it, though? Well, we're going to have 6 days of what you staring at Filofax. What you on about? You madman. You madman. What?
Yeah, you can set the agenda of the football team with 5 options in a Filofax. And icon driven as well. No, somebody had just done a shit in a frying pan, and they'd gone to make a shitty pancake. That's what they'd done. It's
a dreadful idea, and it doesn't make any sense, because I could have got that if it was just that was your week. So you had 5 options, and but then again, even if you only have 5 options, so just do those things, and then you play the game. It's like, okay, fair enough, but you have to do 28 things to get to the game. And
importantly, I don't even like football games, and I don't like Match of the Day. But I'll say this: if somebody went I'd know what that was. To not have that in a Match of the Day game, you are honestly
it was silent.
It was silent. you are slowly pushing a Love Honey-based rabbit toy right up your rectum. And you're not going to get the tickle out of that. You're not, because the batteries weren't charged. It was rubbish. It was a cheap version. It was cheap.
Yeah. And then let's go to World Cricket. Because World Cricket...
The scoreboard simulator.
The scoreboard simulator. It's like, what, you're just watching numbers go up really fast for no good reason. You can't do anything about it apart from change the bowler every now and then. There's no game. There was no game there.
No. Cricket fans can't have liked that. They can't.
No, because there wasn't any cricket.
And we've seen other cricket games. How many? No, that Tim, what's his name, cricket? And the
Tim Loves, Graham Gooch's, Ian Botham's.
No, and as much as we criticise Mr. Gooch's game for being all about the gooch, which is not a cricket game I want to be involved in ever, this was worse, wasn't it? Because this was all scoreboard and this was all scores and no game. And that is honestly, it's all light and no heat. This is rubbish.
Yeah. So just describing all three of these, I anything could be the winner, but I'm going to err on the Phileas Fogg's balloon battles because I think the concept of that is utterly stupid. I
think it has to be because, a game where your balloon is blown by the wind and it changes the control system inexplicably. No, I'm 100% in alignment. It was crap.
And the wind is, and I would say match of the day is second.
Yeah. Oh, completely. Wind, file facts, and scoreboard. Those are not... Those, you remember them.
I don't want
Utterly eggy things to make a game on. How can we make Match of the Day exciting? I don't know. Should we just make it all about the bloody... Should we put the music in it? No. Filofax, all the way. As we know.
Filofax, the icons you drag.
Whenever we watch Match of the Day on the TV, the first thing they do is break out the Filofax and look at the week's agenda. No. Something went horribly wrong with all of those, but it went more horribly wrong with Match of the Day. But Phileas Fogg, balloon blowing nonsense. Come on. No.
Just rubbish.
No, rubbish. Absolutely crazy.
And crazy.
That's what it was.
Crazy. Yeah. I think it's a justifiable winner because at the time I remember playing it and going, this makes no sense. None. That's whatsoever. Nope. So, Graham, we have our winner. Can you please announce the winner of the craziest concept?
And the winner of the craziest concept was Phileas Fogg's Balloon Battles, a game where the very wind in the sky blows you around and you've got fuck all to do. It's crap.
It is crap. Utter crap. A runners-up Match of the Day, World Cricket. By the facts and scoreboards. Jesus, what a year. What a year we've had, Graham.
What a year. It's so shite.
What a year.
Shit. So shit.
When we started this 5.5 years ago, how little we knew what delights we would have coming up.
I had
games
no
based
idea
around final faxes and scoreboards.
I had no idea what 1992 was like. By this point, I was playing Secret Monkey Island and stuff on the Amiga and other good stuff. This was not a consideration.
Yeah, look what you missed out on.
I know. Could have been playing bloody Phileas Fogg or World Cricket or Count Duckula. So
Zoomerang. Jesus. There you go. Right. Oh dear. Let's move on to more quality. Because our next category is the licensed catastrophe. And
yes, and there was quite a few licensed games, weren't there, in the old 1992?
There were. I can tell you how many licensed games there were, in fact. 20. That is literally 1/5.
1/5 of the games between that and the arcade conversions. Okay.
Yeah. So, licensed catastrophe. Okay, again, we did our stuff. There were 5 games that were nominated by either myself or Graham. Those games were the Blues Brothers.
Okay.
Which I can understand because I know you hated the music, didn't you?
The music, well, because it's the Blues Brothers, it's a musical.
Yeah, I get it. But the game itself was okay. Die Hard 2, again, I get it.
Side-scrolling, shuffle them up, yeah.
Yeah, but Bully Sporting Darts.
Nothing about Bully. Bullseye. Yeah, no, nothing about it.
Bully. The Addams Family.
Yeah,
awful.
Very vague.
And The Neverending Story 2, the arcade game.
Awful, because it was a crap film, though.
Yeah, they weren't building on much, were they? But there were 5 games that we agreed upon. Those games were Nightbreed, Match of the Day, it's back again in Filofax form, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis,
green,
Count Duckula 2,
crap,
and Neighbours.
Neighbours, that stupid thing. I mean, it's not a great list, is it?
Count Duckula 2 is our worst game, so does it by default win?
No, I don't think so. I think because that was a bad game, because it was a bad game, but it held to its license. It had Count Duckula in it and all the other characters, so it was a license.
And it was, and I suppose Count Duckula and the things at the bottom were recognisable, weren't they? Auntie and that other guy.
But there are worst licensed catastrophes. I think. I mean, Match of the Day you could put in there because that is a catastrophe because it's very little to do with Match of the Day. I think Neighbours has to be in that top list because it was an isometric skateboard game that was nothing to do with Neighbours, really.
What about one episode? There was one episode where they had a race around thingy.
Episode, and it wasn't very good. Indiana Jones, it's of Indiana Jones, but it's green and vague.
And shit.
Nightbreed. Nightbreed was a complex thing to do a game from. They managed to really royally cock that up. So even if you went to make a game based on the fundamentals of Nightbreed, this isn't how you would do it. They turned what is a relatively complex story about the realization of somebody that's in one world that goes into another and needs to, release to certain people. They managed to convert that into a side-scrolling rubbish.
No, it's flick screen, wasn't it? Because you could get knocked back off your screen and into the previous load. Yeah,
but what I mean is just side view, I suppose is what I meant.
Yeah, side view, yeah.
And the graphics were okay, as I remember them, generally speaking.
Busy, bitty though. Busy and bitty.
Bitty, but like the graphics that we had in a few other games of the C64, like medium res, but medium raspberry, really.
Too much medium res. Too much.
Yeah, a bit more like the sort of some of the older games colours that we've seen. Dante's Inferno style bittiness.
Yeah.
But so where do you go with it? Count Duckula was a particularly bad game in the sense that it was a very bad license for Count Duckula. It wasn't a good game anyway, and it was also pretty crap. Neighbours was also pretty crap as a Neighbours game because it had very little to do with actual Neighbours. It was just a cash-in, really. And I think Nightbreed. So if I was going to put three in the top, I think I would go for Count Duckula 2, Neighbours and Nightbreed because Nightbreed was a pig of a game based on a very complicated thing that had literally nothing to do with the Nightbreed film, really, other than it had the name on it. And even the logo was different. They couldn't decide on that. And the game they'd chosen to make was clearly a bodged version of other games that they'd just kind of thrown the graphics into that made no sense whatsoever. And then from what what we understand is that on tape, the loader was a literal piss take. And so, you could be knocked back into another screen and it start loading. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even engineered really for anybody. It was just pumped out because that would have been the same on disc. It wouldn't have been any faster. Disc was slow on the C64. Yeah. All right. It wasn't loading from tape, but tape could be as fast as disc when it was done the right way. Turbo tape proved that. So this was never about throughput. The throughput on the way that the serial bus worked on the C64 for disc and the tape was arguably a problem of hardware. So Nightbreed came along and didn't really do anything other than make that worse. I can't imagine playing it on tape. I can't imagine playing it at all because it was fundamentally based on something too complex for easy description of a game, let alone trying to make it an arcade type game. So I think Nightbreed's in the top three. I think Count Duckula because Count Duckula was it was an easy license to do, ultimately, really. You already had a game that was a platform game with Count Duckula in. You already had the graphics and you had plenty of stories of Count Duckula. And we were critical of the Danger Mouse games for the same reason. They considering you have all of that material, they go nowhere with it. And you end up creating a really bad version of the first game. The first game was better. And then Neighbours, of course, makes no sense for a Neighbours game. There's nothing to do with Neighbours in it. You are playing Skate or Die a la Australia. So it's Skate or Die with added Labradors. It's weird, actually. And I would say that's a pretty licensed catastrophe considering how you could have made a licensed Neighbours game. It's not about the relationships of neighbours. Neighbours is about neighbours and about, neighbours being good friends and the relationships. It would have been a good alter ego type game, really, or something more of an adventure type, really, or a point and click. Dare I say. But this was a point and clack. It was awful.
Pointless and clack.
Pointless and clack. So I'd say for me, the top three got to be Neighbours, Count Duckula and Nightbreed. What about you?
I really want Indiana Jones in there.
No,
because
I agree.
I think Indiana Jones is an absolute travesty.
I would agree. I'd absolutely substitute any of them out for that because, don't get me wrong, green Indiana Jones any day of the week can go in there.
I would take out Count Duckula 2's had its thingy. It's its worst game. Okay, we've given it its dues. It's its worst game. But like we said, there is some elements of Count Duckula in there. There's the nanny and stuff and the characters, and at least it does look like him. Indiana Jones has a green Indy.
Yeah. No.
And I can't forgive that. I cannot forgive it.
It's a crap isometric view as well.
It's isometric shit where you're getting chased by indestructible Nazis that you have to knock over to pick up chocolate from, that then get back up as soon as you can't run away from
that gambling screen. No, I'd happily take Count Duckula out and put Indiana Jones in. Any chance to put that piece of crap game in any kind of categories works for me. So yeah, can't be in. Let's move it in there. Indiana Jones, definitely. So Indiana Jones, Neighbours, and Nightbreed, I think. So, and if I'm going to be honest, if I'm going to go out of those three with the worst licensed game out of them, based on the material that you had and the games that have been around at the time before that, Indiana Jones all the way.
Yeah, it has to be because it's based on the Amiga, and for some reason they made this isometric thing and made Indy green, everything else grey. You got this dual character thing that doesn't work. You'd never know who's doing anything. The UI is incomprehensible. Picking stuff up is a nightmare. The opening level has you go into, you don't know what you've got to do. You've got to go to a rule, play blackjack or something for random stuff to get some stuff to find it. Yeah. It's crap.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Indiana Jones at the top. I think runners up Nightbreed, and then I think Neighbours.
I
think,
yeah. I desperately want Indiana Jones to be at the top there. I just do.
No, I agree with you. I mean, don't get me wrong, Count Duckula 2 is crap, but it works better in the other category. I think for a licensed game, which this was, licensed to Lucasfilm, somebody just did a massive shit in George Lucas's hands. Yeah. And he clapped, and he just clapped. He just clapped and applauded.
He just clapped and went in his beard. It was horrible.
He did, yeah,
because the thing is, I think you make the right point, sort of thing. If you think about, and the reason I think Indiana Jones deserves to go there, sort of thing, is what are you making the game based on? Nightbreed is incomprehensible. It's Cabal, the book,
it would never
is a hard read. Nightbreed, the film, is a weird old film. It's not game material. They should never have made a game on it. They did. It's crap, but it's it's not a catastrophe because it's like Neighbours. What the hell? What are you going to do with Neighbours? But Indiana Jones and the fate of Indiana Jones has so much potential to do something decent with, which they've cocked up every time on this.
The Fate of Atlantis games are better on the other platforms. It's like there's clearly the material there.
Yeah, well, they did the point and click, didn't they? That was a point and click.
Which is what it should have been. Why not do that?
Why not? I mean, could they have done a version of the point and click on the C64?
Well, it uses the same bloody engine. It's the same engine as
Zack
Maniac
McCracken
Mansion
and stuff.
And Zack McCracken. So they could have, yes, absolutely could have with a bit of time.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget, sort of thing. We're not even mentioned Elvira, but I suppose, which is the same problem. But Indiana Jones has so much potential to get it this wrong.
Yeah, and a hugely successful license to base it upon as well. Huge. Yeah. So, and also, The Fate of Atlantis is another Indiana Jones story. So it's not like it's a rehash. It's supposed to be an advancement of the Indiana Jones, story arc. And so to cock that up on the C64 and not just do a point and click when clearly you can do them. The technology is there. The Scrum engine is there. Is there. It's just a shitty thing to do to make a green Hulk like Indiana just get trapped in a casino. No, bollocks to you. Licensed catastrophe. That's what you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So Graham, would you like to announce the winner for our licensed catastrophe?
The winner of the licensed catastrophe game is, of course, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, you dog-eggy dog egg. The runner-up, of course, is Nightbreed, which was crap, and Neighbours, which was not neighbourly. Get lost, licensed catastrophe games. A pox on thee. A pox.
Yeah, indeed. There we go. That's those three done. We're going to go away. I think we take a quick break before we come back. Best audio, craziest concept, licensed catastrophe, all done. Let's take a quick break before we come back for the heated debate that will be the best game. See you in a moment.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Growing up in the 80s is a chore for Sarah, who feels misunderstood by her parents and badgered by Reese, her bothersome brother who incessantly prattles on about his treasured computer games. When Reese tells her one of the games tried to pull him inside the computer, she laughs off his fanciful fib. She waggles the joystick to disprove his fairy tale and is pulled into the computer. Now trapped in games she'd never had any interest in playing, how can she possibly beat them? With the help of feisty Nell, another trapped player, can Sarah find her way back home, or is it game over? An evil madman, a hostile planet, bloodthirsty robots, a never-ending throng of karate experts, and relentless digital soldiers will do their best to ensure Sarah never escapes. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, find out if there's a way out of the beige breadbin of betrayal for Sarah in Escape from the Commodore 64.
And we're back. The final part of the 1992 Breadbin Awards. And our final award from us two, it is, of course, the best game. What is the best game for this year? As ever, we put in our nominations. There were a couple that either one of us nominated. Those games were Super Seymour.
Right.
Was that Bomb Jack one? The Bomb Jack style one? Yeah, it was okay. Yeah. It was all right. It was also Dylan Dog, which I quite liked. I thought that was quite a good early sort of version of Resident Evil, to be fair. But, it didn't get the vote from the pair of us, though. But what did get the vote from the pair of us were Nobby the Aardvark, Daffy Duck, Space Crusade, Slicks, Secret Agent Sly Spy, and the Cool Croc Twins.
I suppose the big issue here, of course, is that it wasn't a great year.
It wasn't. I also think as well the issue there is neither of us went for Creatures 2, which I thought was probably a shoe-in on First Samurai, but I don't think either of us particularly got on with them, did we?
Well, it was okay, but was it the best? I don't know.
I think I enjoyed all these games more.
Yeah, and I've got affinity for different games in this list for different reasons. I quite liked Slicks because it was the best version of what it was trying to be, and it was budget, and it was quite good at that. So that was
It was very good. Slicks is great. I'll give it that.
And it's quite a playable game for repeated plays. Okay. Mm-hmm. Nobby the Aardvark was the most complete console to C64 conversion, I think, really. And I know it wasn't a strict conversion, but you know what I mean. It was a console game that was principally made on the C64, and it really kind of worked, multiple levels. It's very Mario-esque. I mean, it was very Super Mario World. Daffy Duck was the game that never was, wasn't it? It was a great game, multiple levels, all really well thought out, which never got released, which was a bit of a shame because I think it would have been a big hit. Space Crusade was a really good version of Space Crusade, a really good version of a tabletop game. And that's unusual. That's quite rare. We've never really had it. The tabletop game versions have always been okay, but they've never been great. And Space Crusade really landed on the great part. Now, it's one of those games that's with all Warhammer-based games, you either like Warhammer on the universe and the whole world of that, or you don't. Space Crusade was always a good in for that. Mm. And so I think it deserves a bit of credit for that.
And coming on the back of the god-awful Hero Quest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they kind of redeem themselves. Now, Sly Spy Secret Agent, the thing with that is it's a really good arcade conversion and it's a really good James Bond game. And we hadn't had any of those. That was like kind of the standout arcade conversion that really did. And it was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, very much so.
It was kind of not quite what I expected at all. And that's the same really for the Cool Croc Twins. I didn't know what to expect for that. Now, that Cool Croc Twins got alarmingly difficult later, didn't it, in the later levels of that?
Yes, it did, yes.
And so there's a little bit of hesitancy around that. But it was a great looking, great, well thought out, complete game with multiple levels and lots of player affordance. Mm-hmm. And so where do you go with it? But I'm looking at the games that really I thought were entertaining. So games that, they weren't buggy, they were entertaining, they were quite, lightweight. And I think out of that list, Space Crusade needs to be in there because it was a really great version of a great game. And that's never really been done when it comes to those early Warhammer type games. I think I'm torn between Slicks and Sly Spy Secret Agent because Slicks is a version of an arcade and so is Sly Spy really, albeit that one is licensed, one is not. And then I'm sort of torn between a Daffy Duck is a great game, but I don't know if it's as good as Nobby the Aardvark. I'm kind of ripped up a bit about that. But where do I go? I'm spinning around those, and I don't quite know where they land for me yet.
Right.
I'm interested in your view.
Yeah. Nobby the Aardvark's great. It's too hard.
It is very difficult.
And I think that's to its detriment. I played it quite a lot for the review because I was really enjoying it. I struggled, and there's some cheap deaths in it, or some cheap moments. Yeah, some cheap sort of losing energy and deaths. Lives are at a premium. Getting to, I got to the balloon level, which is the second one. I managed to get halfway through that, and I just couldn't get any further because it was so hard. And you get continuous and stuff, but it was such a oh God, this is ridiculously hard. And I think that's to its detriment. Daffy Duck, I think, flatters to deceive a little bit. I think it's opening, it's got a really good in, and you get going. And I liked the second level. And then I think the third one, which was the sort of left to right scrolling canyon one, I think was that the third level. I think that's the point where it kind of loses it a little bit. And I think it does the same thing over and over. So I think it's a good game, but its budget roots show through. Cool Croc Twins, I think it's a really, really strong entry. I think it's a really, really good, fast action, single screen, Tato style puzzler type thing. There's some great graphics in there. Maybe the brownness does count against it as we progress later on. We've seen some screenshots and stuff, and it gets really hard and things like that. Space Crusade is really good. I think Space Crusade's only lacking for me was the atmosphere. It needed sound, more sound. It needed just a rumble in the background. Would have done. Would have worked wonders. Slicks is excellent. There's some really, really good stuff in Slicks. I really, really like the challenge the player above you to win their car mechanic that is in there, that kind of risk reward. And you can get challenged from below you and you can lose your car as well. I think that's a really good idea. And I think that works really well. And it plays really well. And I like the fact that as you get faster cars, the challenge, so you're trying to get better cars and the challenge gets harder because the car is harder to control in, trying to get around there at super speeds and stuff like that. That's really good. And then we've got Secret Agent Slice By, which again, like you, I was expecting a mediocre kind of, conversion from the arcade. I'd never really played it in the arcade. And what we got was the single best James Bond game on the system. And a really, really good, perhaps the best, we'd seen since, what was its face? Midnight Resistance, Green Beret. Yeah. I would hold that game in those echelons. That's where that is for me. So if I had to pick a threesome here, I think I'd go all the S's: Space Crusade, Slick, Secret Agent.
Okay, yeah, I could go with that.
That would be my three.
I've got no opposition to any of those three being in the top three. I think
Cool Croc Twins would be fourth. The reasons
you explain.
Yeah, Cool Croc Twins would be fourth, I think. I would have Dylan Dog up there, but obviously we didn't feel the same way about that. But I think for the ones we did sort of agree on, it's those S's, so Space Crusade, Slicks, and Secret, because they all do something different. They're all very, very different games.
No, I agree.
Taking elements from different things, but they all do them very, very well. So that's my shortlist.
But where do you go with that shortlist?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
I want to say this. For me, a best game has to be varied. It can't just be one thing done repeatedly okay. And that's Slicks. Slicks is a great game, but it is a race game, ultimately, and over a series of levels, and okay, but it is that. I think if you're going to go for variety, well, Slice by Secret Agent and Space Crusade, those two are the most varied of the games because they are based on, and they do the variation, and Slice By definitely does that because it's very aligned to the arcade, which is those different levels. You have different things to do, and it's very James Bond, and I like that about it.
Yeah.
And I have to sort of weigh that up with my strong affinity for Warhammer. Now, I wasn't wholesalely sold on Space Crusade as a C64 game. I thought it was okay, but it's because they don't generally do them that well. But it is a very good game it's much better than Hero Quest, and it is more aligned to the pieces of Warhammer and Warhammer 40k as it was that it's sort of leaning in on. And in that respect, as much as it's a little bit atmospheric less, it does feel like a Space Crusade game, and you can partake in those things that are of that. But Slice By comes along, and Slice By is a really good version of the arcade.
It's a really good, fun game, isn't it? It's just a really good, fun version of the arcade.
And it's not dissimilar to the arcade. And I think as a refreshing breeze of how things can be done in a world where we've had licensed catastrophes plenty, arcade, Crapcade conversions are plenty. It came along as a complete sideswipe out the blue for me. I did not expect a slice by game in 1992, and for that reason, I think it's probably my best game.
I agree.
Out of those,
I completely agree. I was hoping you were going to go for it because I went back and played it, and I was like, this is just a great fun time. It's not too hard. It's like loads of arcade conversions. We've seen loads of arcade where they're just dead hard and they're just horrible to play. It's got a nice easy in. You can get to like 3 or 4 levels in. Now, I understand back then the multiplayer was a bit of a pain, but, we're not knocking Nightbreed for its multiplayer. We knocked Nightbreed because it was crap and it was incomprehensible and stupid. This in the here and now, which is what we're kind of doing, because you can play it by cartridge and what have you, it's a great little blast. It's a really fun, and it looks the part. It looks like James Bond.
It does, and it's all of the things that we wanted from the James Bond games that never happened. They're in there. Yeah. And I know it's an Ocean game, isn't it, as well, I think?
I think so, yeah. Finally, they came good.
To be fair, but if I think back to the classic Imagine-based, conversions that were kind of Ocean-ish, weren't they? So Green Berets and things like that. This felt to me like a Green Beret of the late 90s or the 1992. Yeah. It had the polish and the finish that was required and the variety of levels, and it had them all. There's no reason to dislike it for that. Now, that's not to take anything from Space Crusade, because Space Crusade was great, but it lacked its fundamental atmosphere, and it wouldn't have taken much to put that in. Yeah. And Slicks was a great game, but very repetitive. So, I think that's why I'm
the only thing I will say about Slice by Secret Agent, and if this is worthy of consideration, I don't know. It was made in 1989, and it was only got its release properly. So I don't think that matters.
I don't think it matters. It's about when we came across it in the podcast. Yeah, exactly. So I think Slice by, that'd be, a controversial choice, I think, because, a lot of people were thinking different games for that. Cool Croc Twins, I think, is a lot of people's favourite and others platformers of the time. But I think out of all of those games, Slice by was the one that was the most like its purpose. And that's not a bad thing. And it was in keeping with the spirit of the arcade, every sequence in it. And it was the James Bond game we always wanted for C64. We never got till this, and they were treading an IP fine line at best, really, with it. So I'd say Slice by Secret Agent for the winner for me, and I think a good runner-up is Space Crusade and Slicks. I couldn't really choose between the two. I liked them both for different reasons. Probably Slicks is the more immediate, and Space Crusade is the more fun to play and a bit more of a thinker.
Yeah, you're going to get more depth. You're going to get more replayability out of Space Crusade. You work your way through that campaign.
So that's where, and honourable mentions to Dylan Dog there and Super Seymour. Dylan Dog, I think, it is very proto Alan Wake and a few other games of that type.
Resident
and that's
Evil.
Not a bad thing. Resident Evil, very much so. It's just not quite there on the C64, but it ain't bad either. So it deserves a good nod, but it's not in the same categories as the best game, which is also the best game on the platform, remember. So it's the best, it's the best game on the C64 at that time. So, and in reality, it probably is now, according to the chart, not so. But Slice by was a welcome full price game amongst all the other games that needed to be released and to showcase that the C64 could do really good arcade games. Midnight Resistance did the same thing. Was it Midnight Resistance? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And this did the same thing. So a good team, pulled together a good thing. Mm-hmm. Good job, everyone. So that's my best game. And if you're in agreement, then there we are.
I certainly am. I love Slice by Secret Agent. I thought it was great. So I'm happy that that's our best game of the year because.
Okay.
And like I said, I think I'll caveat this with what we said about the music. I don't think Slice by has gone to trouble best game ever.
No. Chance,
so I don't think it's that. But it's in 1992. It was probably that game that I had the most fun with.
Yeah, exactly. In a cupboard full of unpolished shoes, it was the one that had slightly more polish on it.
Yeah, someone had dripped a bit of wax on it, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Shiner. There you go. So, Graham, surprising. I think it may surprise some people, but please announce our best game for 1992.
The best game for 1992, as voted for by the podcast hosts of Zaps of the Past, is Slice by Secret Agent. Ooh.
Yeah.
With close runners-up, Space Crusade and Slicks. There you go. There can be only one winner, and that's what it was.
Yeah, can't knock them. 3 good games. We had some good games. There were some good games this year. There were few and far between.
Yeah, not many.
A very small percentage. Not many. And that's it. That's our awards. But it would be nothing, Graham, nothing without the comments from our Patreons. We always like to ask our Patreons what they thought.
We do.
Were their best games. And, well, I've got a lot of reading here to do. So strap in. AL82 Retro has written about quite a few games here. I'm just going to read these. First entry, Game of the Year. His Game of the Year, Graham, was First Samurai.
Okay.
Developed by Vivid Image and released originally in 1991 for the Amiga and Atari ST, this arcade hack and slash with puzzle elements was one of the visual benchmarks for graphical fidelity. A truly stunning game to behold, and the gameplay was pretty darn good too. The release of the C64 version, however, was delayed until the following year when publisher ImageWorks Microsoft fell into disarray following the sudden death of Robert Maxwell from eating too many Chinese dinners, I believe. This could also easily have been a game covered on his own. This could also easily have been a game covered by Frank Gaskin. It's what he does. Games that weren't. By a temporary hiatus, the C64 version would see the light of day. With a machine as limited as the Commodore 64, at least compared to the Amiga, this could have turned into a complete and abject failure. The task of converting the game would have been no less Herculean than many of the arcade coin-up at the time. Yet rather than ending up with a kind of odorous brown slurry, the likes of US Gold and their ilk were all too eager to push on the unsuspecting customer, this proved to be an absolutely first-rate effort that got absolutely everything right. Firstly, the graphics. Tiemann Ermax pixel art for the 16-bit version was sensational, but Matt Sneap, whose prior C64 portfolio point could be considered average at best, turned in a genuinely sterling effort in making the game every bit as visually impressive on the Breadbin. The main samurai sprite is well-defined, big and well-grown, boasting the right level of shading and highlighting to add depth to the character without being too grainy. All of the combat moves are replicated here, smooth animation that matches the Amiga. Crucially, the darker background colours and restrained use of detail mean the samurai always stands out, meaning you never lose sight of him in the heat of the action. Visually, this is a masterclass in practical use of colour and detail, striking the right balance in terms of making the game look great, but not at the expense of the gameplay. Of course, visuals mean nothing if the core mechanics, coding, and general robustness of the technical building blocks on which the game is based leave the player frustrated, stuck, or otherwise impede enjoyment of the game. Coder John Williams was able to convert all the levels, puzzles, game mechanics, and control systems from the Amiga version, producing a version of the game that any C64 owner would feel delighted to own. What's more, the C64 version has smoother scrolling than the Amiga or Atari ST version, showing that the 8-bit stalwart could still show those 16-bit whippersnappers a thing or two when pushed. The only thing divisive about the C64 version of First Samurai is whether it's the kind of game you'd actually enjoy. There you go. Its mix of walk-and-seek arcade action and light puzzle solving might not be to everyone's taste, especially when you consider the scale of the levels. You need to scour for certain items to unlock the way forward. But if it is your bag, and I would suggest you definitely give it a try, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. A stunning conversion and one of the few full-price titles of 1992 that actually warranted its price tag.
Okay, fair enough.
Licensed Catastrophe Award is Nightbreed.
Okay.
My decision to award Nightbreed the ignominious Licensed Catastrophe Award isn't so much based on the quality of the game itself, but rather the specific medium on which it was published. Adrian and Graham's review of the game in episode 219 of the podcast is damning enough assessment of this movie-based tie-in, but the proliferation of disc and newfangled Easy Flash cartridge releases often mask just how horrendously frustrating these older games can be. To provide some context, Breadbin owners in the UK were accustomed to purchasing their games on cassette tape, cheaper to mass-produce, duplicate and distribute the disc. The humble tape was driving force behind the success of the C64 and other platforms as entry-level games machine. The downside to tape, however, is that games which couldn't fit entirely into the 64K memory meant that games had to be broken into chunks, of course, with the terminal multi-load being the bane of the C64 existence. Bad enough for games whose structure is entirely linear, but Nightbreed features a game map and locations which can be explored and accessed at the player's discretion, meaning that crossing a threshold into a separate zone not in memory would require a lengthy loading process from the tape, well in excess of 5 minutes before play could resume. Furthermore, upon alighting in the newly loaded zone, you might realise that you actually didn't want to be in the current location at all and decide to backtrack, which would immediately require the loading of the previous zone back into memory. You need to rewind or fast forward the tape to a predetermined counter position and load in the data just to get back to your previous location. This meant your ratio of tape loading to actual playtime could be as ridiculous as 20-1. Which is actually not bad, actually, because playing it would be terrible. Exacerbated further by enemies which could knock you into holes or into the next screen, which could inadvertently cross the zone boundary that would precipitate even more loading. This is bad, isn't it? It's bad design, this. The subtext of this rant is that Nightbreed is a game whose very design hinged on a loading mechanism that could cope with random access, namely disc or cartridge. The game should never have been released on tape, and suckers like myself who came into possession of this exercise in frustration were left irate. Something so irksome could actually exist. Ocean included the game as part of a double pack with Midnight Resistance. The game boasting production values and fun facts a Nightbreed could only dream of, but they may as well have thrown Nightbreed in the bin before leaving the warehouse to save us the trouble. An absolute dud of a game to begin, maligned with kludgy controls, awkward collision detection, and general incongruence with the Clive Barker horror movie on which it's based.
Yikes.
The fact it shipped on tape and was blighted with one of the most infuriating multiloads of all time means that had Dante still been alive, he'd have needed to create a 10th circle of hell just for this.
Ouchie.
There's more.
The worst, crappiest arcade conversion. And for AL82 Retro, that was Cisco Heat. He says, there are some games whose reputation precedes them. I knew at some point ZTTP, us, would have to cover ICE Software's conversion, quote unquote, and I use that term loosely, of Cisco Heat. Followers of the podcast and Zzap historians will probably have realized that by 1992, the scores awarded by the magazine were determined less by editorial review policy and critical appraisal and more by some random number generated whose output would on the matter of Cisco Heat. Zzap saw sense and awarded this clagnut a mere 30%. Clagnut? This is 22% more generous than rival Mag Commodore format, but at least they were in the right ballpark. The premise for the original arcade game was always somewhat ropey to begin with, involving some guff about the San Francisco police force taking time off to participate in some weird street race. Now, I'm sure San Franciscans would have appreciated their hard-earned tax dollars funding some fripperies, but it was at least an excuse for some relatively speedy racing with fancy sprite scaling on display. Fancy. You'll find none of that on the C64, though. The graphics are a complete travesty with the excuse for an urban backdrop looking like some garish stickle brick nightmare devoured back in 1984. Then, following a digestive process, rivaling a Sarlacc, excreted back out in 1992. Sarlacc, Star Wars references there. The roadway is a mess of unstable raster flicker, populated with cars that don't so much scale as simply warp around the screen. The game must be set in the same universe as Line of Fire because it's the only explanation for the complete failure to convey any meaningful sense of scale. Bushes the size of forests. I've been around that many times in my life. It's awful. Overhang the mile-wide road while buildings averaging 6 inches, definitely been there, in height, pop into existence and vanish almost as quickly as they, almost as quickly. It's incomplete. It's a complete and utter travesty as far as the presentation goes, and that's not the worst thing about it. Goodness me, that's not the worst thing, Adrian. The real horror sets in when you try and actually play the thing. It's a complete bust on a technical level with a frame rate measured in the seconds per frame. We hate those. Utterly failing to convey any sense of speed. Trying to steer your car is a fruitless exercise because the game simply doesn't render sufficient frames for you to make the kind of pre-calculated judgment necessary to turn corners, avoid traffic, or do much of anything at all. Chris Butler proved the C64 could do sprite scaling racing games with turbocharge and power drift, both of which were infinitely superior to this mess. Sorry, I hope for ICE's sake they simply didn't have sufficient time to develop the conversion because releasing this under any other circumstances inexplicable. With that said, I don't think this would have benefited from being left in the game development any longer because the ingredients were pretty rancid to begin with. It's a terrible conversion of an arcade game that wasn't much of a classic to begin with, one which should have been consigned straight to landfill, not sold for an eye-watering, $10.99 to beleaguered C64 owners desperately in need of quality titles. That's a lot of hate in it poured on that. A lot of hate.
And rightly so. It's crap.
Yes.
It's
Cisco Heat
crap.
is utterly shit. I'm with you at AL82 Retro, whatever your real name is. Probably Bobby Frisco. It isn't that. I'm with you on that. Anyway, over to you, AD, for the next thing. Whatever that
the fourth one is best music. Is Creatures 2, Torture Trouble. One of the prevailing trends in the final year of Zzap 64 is the dearth of quality music in the games reaching the pages of the publication. Colin, Galway and Hubbard had long since moved on to pastures new, with only a handful of composers still churning out BGM compositions for the C64. With pickings this scant to choose from, choosing a winner was perhaps easier than previous years, especially with some games lacking music at all. Indeed.
True.
For 1992, I feel that Creatures 2 Torture Trouble is deserving of the Best Music Award. Steve Rowlands was always something of an underrated composer, in my opinion, but in addition to being a great pixel artist, he could crank out some banging tunes when required. The soundtrack to Creatures 2 isn't so much a demonstration of melodic mastery or accomplished arpeggios, rather a collection of tunes that complements perfectly the offbeat humour and capers of Clyde Radcliffe and his fuzzy friends. It's also music composed specifically for the game in which features, rather than some musty old tune dragged out of the demo party basement or simply copied from some previous game title. which seems to have been increasingly commonplace towards the end of the C64's commercial life. In fact, you can stick Cisco Heat for worst game of the year too, for all the same reasons. There you go. Cisco Heat, he hates. Clearly hates it. Clearly hates it. Thank you, AL82. That's a yeah, fair enough. What else have we got here? Dr. Goggles. Dr. Goggles said that International Ninja Rabbits music is great too, but pretty sure we hated that game. And yes, we did.
We did.
Yeah. Mr. Tossin said he loved Creatures 2, music, everything. A rare thing to find a C64 game that you felt could beat, even if you didn't. Loading killed it though. There we go. What else? We've got more from AL82. The worst game, another worst game here, Fighting Soccer.
Yeah, no argument there.
Despite nominating Cisco Heat as my chosen dung pile of 6502 Assemble and masquerading as a game to win the crappiest arcade conversion, I decided I need to play the field before deciding to nominate for the Worst Game Award. Deserving though it is, the C64's limited hardware meant that Cisco Heat could never have delivered anything close to the arcade original. The same cannot be said of Fighting Soccer. The very existence of Micropro Soccer, a game which launched before this embarrassment, proves otherwise. Having listened to Zap to the past assessment of Fighting Soccer, a withering diatribe of scatological analogies, and other put-downs, I knew I needed to experience the game firsthand. He's not wrong. I can't remember what he said about it, before bestowing this most ignoble of awards. The primary issue this game has is the colour scheme, which is rendered almost exclusively in shades of green. This probably stems from the existence of the game on the ZX Spectrum, but given that colour clashing isn't a problem for the C64, there's absolutely no good reason to have not changed this. The use of a single primary colour, contrasting or not, for absolutely everything other than the active player and ball renders the game unplayable. It's virtually impossible to discern the teams to which the players belong. Yeah, that's what we said. And it's only after several moments of myopia-inducing squinting you'll possibly notice the dithering effect on some of the sprite shades. Barely discernible on a static screen and utterly impossible when in motion.
True.
On reflection, using the word motion when describing Fighting Soccer is a flagrant breach of the Trade Description Act. Without a shred of hyperbole and stony-faced, I can attest that a Viewmaster has smoother animation than this. In fact, I would recommend creating your own reel from still images for a footy match featuring your favourite team, because you'll have an experience far in excess of anything this game can produce. The lack of fluidity means you have no control over your team, assuming you can even see them, and your chances of scoring an actual goal are naught. The opposing team will also rub salt in the wounds by consistently scoring goals with lobs that land on top of the goal, rather than in the goal. The only consolation here is that Zap 64 actually appeared to have played the game and awarded it a score in line with what it deserved, 10%. Anything higher than 0, though, is still too generous, but I guess we should be thankful for small mercies. Presentation terrible, graphics green, sound irrelevant, hookability 0, lastability femtosecond. Overall, I fear for Granny's safety if she bought you this for Christmas.
True.
That is true. What else have we got? Lee Dove's given us a load as well.
Yes, he has. So Lee Dove, he said, I'd planned to write more for this, but small mercies, I've suffered an injury. We'll get well soon.
Oh, yeah,
that's turned into something more painful, ouch, and complicated. So we'll only have a small series of walls of text. Prepare. This has been a difficult one to judge. In 1982, I played plenty of C64 games, but because of unemployment and poor distribution of C64 titles where I lived, the amount of actual C64 games from 1992 that I played was pretty much 0, unless you count small vertical slices I played via demos. So I've had to judge these on how much I enjoyed them in here and how now 3 decades later. So the best game for Lee Dove, Slicks. I played the demo of this Micro Machines precursor to Death via a demo back in the day, so much so that decades later muscle memory kicked in and I was able to make great progress from the starting flag. To a degree, once I moved up a couple of places via the weird betting tallying system, I had to deal with a car that was faster but a lot twitchier. It might be a simple budget game, but everything it does well. And unlike some Ash and Dave games, the game portion here lives up to the presentation. I had a lot of fun with this. Honourable mentions, the Cool Croc Twins. A fantastic twist on the usual Taito-style single-screen arcade games using a gravity-defying mechanic I've only seen in a couple of other indie titles. And he's put V springs to mind, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. Ruined slightly by an impossible level in the early 30s and by invisible until you hit them tiles in the second half of the game. You've still got 31 enjoyable levels to muck around with before it gets too complicated to be fun. And then Creatures 2, if only for the level where you have to bounce the fuzzy wuzzies across the screen using a trampoline. The demo of that alone provided a lot of fun for myself and my girlfriend at the time. Over to you for worst game for Lee Dove.
Worst game, Count Duckula 2. Yes.
Yeah, no argument.
An awful vertical shooter which can be beaten effectively by not engaging with the shooting is a prelude to a dreadful platformer that would have looked and played among the worst of its peers in 1984. Gets top spot for me because of the cynicism in marketing a below-par game to kids who would have been unlikely to have been warned off by reviews. The Danger Mouse game from 1984 was just as dire, but they had the excuse of being 1984. By 1992, publishers knew better. No, they knew they could just shovel out any old shite. Dishonorable mentions, Cisco Heat. Here's a quote from the Zzap review that has lived in my head rent-free for decades. A friend of mine once asked a gypsy what he should do to give him good luck. Take your copy of Cisco Heat, he was told. Tie it to a lamppost with a piece of string and leave it overnight. So he did as instructed. When he went to collect it the next day, someone had pinched the string. The arcade original was average at best. This conversion is dreadful. I've seen racing games from nearly a decade earlier that did better on lesser machine. And Cover Girl Strip Poker, one we decided not to cover, wasn't it, really? I don't know. Deservedly panned back in the day, the C64 version is even worse due to the poor resolution of the images of the young ladies in question. But it's the exploitation of the young ladies that earns it a spot here. Fair enough. Allegedly, only one of the models got paid, and the following disclaimer that came with the game did a lot of heavy lifting. Not manufactured, distributed, or endorsed by any of the models appearing in the product. This was also the last C64 release from the sales curve, an ignoble end to a pretty solid track record on the machine.
True.
Do you want to do best visuals?
So true. Sure, best visuals for Lee Dove. Creatures 2, Torch Trouble. Dancing fuzzies, the over-top gore straight from the Monty Python's Anyone for Tennis sketch, that amazing screen-filling snows. It's all done with such character. And then so Creatures 2, I don't argue with that. Honourable mentions, First Samurai, the Amiga version was a looker. It was. I thought it was crap, though, but it was a good-looking game. The C64 version was as close as you could get, leaning into the strengths of the machine. So good that for years I'd assumed it was the work of Doc. Doc being a great graphic person on the C64. Hats off to Matt Sneap. So that's the best visuals. A winner there, Creatures 2 from Lee Dove. But for you for the next one.
Best sounds, Creatures 2 Torch Trouble for the dancing fuzzy wuzzy intro music alone. Yeah, that is good.
Fair.
Honourable mention is Nobby the Aardvark. There's some really moody atmospheric tracks from the underwater levels onwards. I was really impressed. Worst sounds, the Blues Brothers. I was quite fond of this Mario-style platformer back in the day, but only because I was playing it at 2 a.m. with the sound down. Playing with the sound on was a terrible revelation. It's the Blues Brothers. You have a SID chip. It's a C64 version of the You Had One Job meme.
It's so true. It's so annoyed me that.
Yeah. And Lee has done a load of other awards.
One here, the Hideo Kojima Made You Wait Award. Okay. Daffy Duck, an arcade adventure that put other games in the genre to shame while showing love for the source material ended up being lost for 22 years. Thanks to the amazing, amazing work, and I'll say this, games that weren't, for finding this, revisiting it. We've said it before, but those guys, honestly, legends of the C64 scene. And beyond, but true legends of everything else. Anyway, now playable in full thanks to sterling work by, of course, the games that weren't C64 and Friends. Just legendary for that. So that was the other award. That's one of them. What about the next one?
Yeah, Best Recycling, or the Tony Crowther Train Special Award, goes to First Samurai for reusing the sound effect library used in Shadow Dancer, which reused the sound effect library used in Last Battle, which reused the sound effect library used in Oink. There you go. Biggest surprise, Graham?
Dylan Dog, a neat survival horror game which feels like a remake of modern horror games right down to the game over animation. Honourable mention goes to Sly Spy, a very good conversion of an obscure Data East game that was probably ruined by long loading times in the original release. We didn't focus on that in our review, but I still think it's deserved of a best game for me.
Yeah, I do as well. This is not the best level in the world. This is just a tribute award. DJ Puff's Volcanic Capers, having an entire level inspired by Ghosts and Goblins.
Inspired, yeah, copied is the word you're looking for there.
Yeah.
Sprites so chunky you could carve it. Final blow. Yes, I know they aren't really sprites. Fight me. Okay.
I don't remember. I thought it was right. Final blow. Was that Rock'em Sock'em Robots?
Yeah, it's basically a giant, well-shaded sprites, I guess you'd call them. Giant sprites.
Yeah. And weirdest license that predated a popular genre. It's an interesting take, this Neighbours. It's a character-based karting game that came out the same year as Super Mario Kart, possibly before. Okay. It's not the first game based on a soap, but it's the first with maps of Australia plastered everywhere. Your favourite characters trapped in a forever looping Ramsey Street, providing no escape, no respite from racing around and being chased by Bouncer for eternity. It's also re-reviewed in the last issue of Zzap for unknown reason. There you go.
More.
Well, there's just a comment here from Mubar, who said, I played very few of 1992's titles back in the day, and even then it was more like 1995 when I bought a weird all-plastic 128D off a shonkster who also offered to copy a bunch of discs for me. and I selected things I'd remember seeing in Zzap and the CFs. The only one I played more recently was the wonderfully panned Stygar, which I didn't think was that terrible. Good Lord.
What?
You know what? But you know what? Arnie, Creatures 2, Rolling Ronnie, and Winter Camp weren't anything to write home about either. All of it just felt miles away from the highs I used to have with the machine. And yes, Creatures 2 did nothing for me. It centered the game on the touch screens. Fun the first time, maybe, but with little replay value, and had a terminably dull mini-game. They cut the bit of the game that I liked. Yes, it looked and sounded lovely, but it was just style over substance to me. That's why I didn't get in our best games. So I'm going to be a conscientious objector and not vote for anything, especially 1992. I'm going to pretend it didn't exist.
That's fair. That's a fair criticism. It was a hard... I mean, it's like making tramps fight each other, innit? You know, you don't really want anyone to win, really, or lose.
No, not really. All I will say is amazing. Thank you very much from our contributors there on our Patreon, on our Discord. They're amazing as ever. They continue to be amazing. They supported us for ages. They still do. Gotta love them. Got to love them. That's pretty much it. Let's go. There were some notable films. I looked through our list of films. These are the ones that stuck out. For whatever reasons. It's not a bad year for films. It was Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
That's a good film. Go watch it.
JFK.
That's a good film. Go watch it.
Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country.
One of the better Star Treks. Yeah. Nicholas Meyer, Return to Form. Yeah. Very good.
Last Boy Scout.
That's a good film. Sort of Tony Scott film, isn't it? That's a good film as well.
Yeah. Cape Fear.
Yeah, that's always a good thing to watch. I rewatched it recently, actually, and it's still quite good.
Yeah. Basic Instinct.
Yeah. Close up of lady parts is always interesting.
Basically, that almost sort of invented a sort of subgenre of sleazy thriller, didn't it, really?
It did, very much so.
Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Remember, I've used the word notable.
VFX. Yeah, good VFX, but horribly problematic.
Miscast.
The other way. Yeah, Chevy Chase should not be in there.
Yeah, Wayne's World.
Zang.
Hook. That's a misfire, wasn't it?
It is, but it's an interesting Spielberg movie, nonetheless.
Yeah. Meet the Feebles.
It's a curio. You have to watch Meet the Feebles as much as you... Because then you realise the guy went on to make Lord of the Rings, so...
Yeah, true. The Lawnmower Man.
Egg.
The Player. That's a decent
interesting,
film.
That one-shot thing.
Yeah. Batman Returns.
Egg.
It's all right. Lethal Weapon 3. That's not great.
Egg.
Alien 3. Director's Cut.
Director's Cut, the modern one. Yeah, go watch that. Don't watch any of those.
Yeah. Unforgiven.
A great Western film. Brilliant stuff.
Beauty and the Beast.
It's a classic
Disney,
animation.
Basically.
Yeah, real return of theirs, yeah.
Yeah, Strictly Ballroom. Amazing.
It's a classic, yeah.
Great film. Glengarry Glen Ross.
Coffee is for closers only. Don't watch that unless you're a closer.
Last of My Weekends.
Yeah.
I could hear Gary from here.
And yeah, he has just spaffed on his screen again.
And finally, Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me.
And there you go. Another time. If you heard like a pff sound, like a dust cloud.
All I'm going to say is to Gary is Buck.
He'll be laughing at that.
He will. He'll laugh at that. Best music, I can't remember. There was a lot of music this year. We listened to quite a lot of music. Anything that stuck out?
Yeah, Prodigy were making inroads, weren't they? Which is always interesting. The chart had realised that the Akai sampler and the Fairlight sampler had landed. So music started to get very samey in terms of house music. So they were all using the same sample sets, which was a bit annoying. There was some occasionally interesting music along the way. There was the divide between chart dance, non-chart dance, and everything else was rapidly becoming obvious. We had this resurgence of grunge with Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Soundgarden and things like that. So there was the wholesale change. Bands like Bon Jovi's had to cut their hair in order to fit in. So there was
the humanity.
The humanity. It was interesting times. And amongst that, Shakin' Stevens still managed to record yet more songs, and so did Cliff Richard. Incredible that they're still going, but there you go. And also Hank Marvin as well decided to join forces with Brian May. Who knows how that happened, why it happened, what urinal they met in, and what agreement they struck. But it led to an inevitable duo of which we've listened to and rated. So highlights, I think for me, the Prodigy becoming the first album came out. Experience was interesting. There's other stuff as well. The demise of the Suzanne Vegas and the the Martha's Harbour people and the Mission, and Goth had died at this point. Really, yeah. The Cure were kind of keeping the fire
Black
burning
flame
a little
alive.
bit. Yeah, they were crumbling in their own little corner a little bit. But a lot of stuff had given way to charty stuff, and that's kind of 90s was very heavy with it, wasn't it? Lots of one-hit wonders and rave music.
What about a single a month from The Wedding Present?
Yeah, there's that as well. And Nine Inch Nails, of course. That's a highlight.
Nine Inch Nails came around, yeah.
Ministry had stuff out in that
Broken?
time.
I can't remember.
Broken. Sam 69 was out in that time as well. There's been some good stuff in amongst it, but it was never happening in the regular charts. That was going to be, full of... You were working in a pub at the time. You heard everything that was going on, so... Yeah,
I did. Mostly Winds... The only song I seem to remember mostly is Winds of Bloody Change.
That and, There's Nothing I Won't Do. I can't keep... That
and also Take the Weather with You.
Oh, yeah. Always take the credits. And also, I suppose what we should think about is, what was our Gulliver's Gold of 1992? What was the track that we remember most of 1992? Probably R.E.M. for me, maybe, I think.
Midlife Crisis.
Oh, Midlife Crisis, yeah. It's got to be one of them, really. And again, another great album that came out, of course, is
I think Midlife Crisis was my Gulliver's Gold of 92, I think.
I think for me, it was probably Smells Like Teen Spirit. I just remember getting involved in a lot of dust-ups or near dust-ups because of that. Up until when Rage Against the Machine hit Gulliver's, when it became quite bizarre, actually. What we used to walk around the dance floor with limps, weirdly enough, during that, as I recall. It took a turn. But up until that Nirvana was the one that we used to rush onto the dance floor and start headbutting people and stuff for no reason whatsoever. So.
Yeah. There you go. So that's it. That's 1992. Done, dusted. We've said what we thought about the games. We've nominated our best ones, our worst ones, our craziest ones, and everything in between.
Patrons have said what they think. They've said what they think about everything. They've had their say. Bless them. So there you go.
So normally at this point we would look forward to next year, but there is no next year.
No,
there isn't. The new and so we're going to pretty much almost finish. So next week we have the Breadbin of Breadbins. We have basically a week, Graham, just over a week, 9 days before we record it, to actually try and come up with.
I don't know how we're going to do it.
I don't know. I mean, the plan is it's going to be 1 week. It could spill into 2 because it could be long. We don't know.
I think it might spill into 2. I'm sort of sat on the fence whether we have a nomination each for what we think, as opposed to trying to figure out one overall, or whether we have a nomination each and then we just kind of decide on one out of that.
But we just have a flat podium of 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's going to work. I think we could be arguing the toss for a month, because there's even just on a couple of awards alone, graphics or music. There's so many entries in that are so good, and best game. I don't know how we do it. So I wonder whether it's I don't know. I don't know.
So Graham's best things, Adrian's best things.
Yeah.
I think
and then one we can, if we actually naturally agree on one or two, maybe we mention those and say it could be any one of those 3. Maybe, I don't know.
I think we need some discussion. We need some discussion. If it's just our own, there'll be no discussion. We need to argue.
Yeah, I mean, there's a discussion about it, but I just don't think there's an agreement to be made. I revisited the music category, thinking, right, I'm going to go back and I listen. I MP3'd and got them all set up so we could listen back to them now. So I set up an entire folder, went through every single one. And I was outraged at my own votes. I was like, oh, you stupid idiot.
That's because I convinced you of certain things early on.
I think I would say the same. Maybe I convinced you of some things. I mean, I listened to them back.
Tetris.
I think Driller should have been higher up. Maybe Tetris shouldn't have been, but Tetris does have its own merit because there is a quality to that 20-minute song. I think there's some songs that are very difficult to dislodge. Your Ghouls and Ghosts, your Knuckle Busters, they're very difficult to dislodge, but there's other tracks in there that could have easily have been in there. There's an entire Missing Hubbard strand in the early 80s. The Hypersports over Monty on the Run. I don't know how that even works. And yet there's one year where it's just 3 Galway tracks and there's no Hubbard entries in there. And yet there's some amazing Hubbard tracks in there. No, we cast aside things like Spellbound, Rasputin.
Yeah, but none of them are as good as Green Beret, Rambo, or Parallax.
They're not all the same. Yeah, but things like just there's so many in there that we're listening to them going, my God, Star Paws didn't even get a mention, and there's a lot of really great tunes in there. That Warhawk, and there's just many that got kind of overlooked. Crazy Comets got overlooked in one final
I think
three.
Didn't that come third? I thought that came third.
Yeah,
in
exactly. But in reality, in that group that it's in, it's like, oh my God, it's like, really? Is that, is Hypersports better than Crazy Comets? Were we mental? Did we suffer a seizure or something at the time? It's like, it's absolutely not.
It is.
So it really isn't. So it's like, we've got to figure that shit out. And that's just that one category. And like I said, it's a very challenging thing to do. And how do you base it? And there's entire really great pieces of music, of course, that never even made it to any of our lists. I'm thinking of things like Gordian's Tomb, which is a 40-minute piece of Sid music, which is excellent. Never even made it to the list. So
one game we looked at, was it? So
no, absolutely. So, but what I'll say is this: I think we're not going to look at games that were outside of the things we've looked at, because I think that would be unfair to do that. But I think there is mileage for the Breadbin of Breadbins where we can reconsider our position. Yeah. We can bring in something that we perhaps overlooked, we didn't think of, maybe didn't give the right amount of credit to at the time. We can bring them back and give them a bit of a ringing out.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think we should have to do. I think.
Yeah, and maybe it won't change anything. Maybe it will. But if we do that for every it could be 3 episodes, let alone 1. There's a lot to discuss there, because some things are going to be easy than others. But the worst game, the Crapcade conversions, out of all of the Crapcade conversions,
I think we also, and I also do think as well, we need an award. I think we've done the Crapcade conversions, but I honestly do think we need a singular award for best arcade conversion.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think what we need to do is balance that, actually. I was thinking about that the other day.
Arcade.
No, I think our awards are actually biased towards worst things. And I think well, that's fair, but the Breadbin of Breadbins, I think we can start to have a balance, and we can say, the best games, worst games, which we've got, but best graphics, worst graphics, best sound, maybe the worst sound, which is a bit naff, really. But where there's a natural leaning towards something that aligns to that, I think there's probably a good rationale to look at something that might actually land in those categories. And I think that exactly as you've said, I think there's a rationale for that. So I think that's something we will do.
Yeah.
Is where there's not just to revisit some categories with maybe fresh blood that comes on, but also we look at them and think, actually, maybe there's an alternative award to be had here for like Crapcade. Okay, but there are some really good arcades. We should celebrate that. And I think
best game this year was an arcade conversion.
Exactly. So I think that's where we'll end up, and that might mean that we are taking a bit more extra time. But would you want it any other way? So.
Yeah, in terms of music, just to come back to the music thing, as a sort of sneak preview of where I am at the moment, and I need to listen to stuff over the next week or so, because obviously, the C64, it's got some, there's some nice visual stuff like that, but, let's face it, the C64 it's the SID machine.
It's about its SID chip, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what people loved about it. So I think that needs to be given its gravitas sort of thing. People still go on about it because it was an amazing, piece of hardware.
People still do stuff on it.
Yeah, and it's incredible. And I thought, obviously, because I had the C64 at a certain period of time, 84 to 89, 88, playing quite regularly, 89. And one game that I didn't play a lot of was Driller. So I never got really accustomed to the Driller music. And one game I never played, which came a lot later, which won last year's, was Gem X. And there's a part of me, as much as I love Galway stuff, and as much as I love Hubbard stuff, I'm veering towards those two as my favourite pieces of music on the machine.
Yeah, and that's fair.
And it's weird.
It's completely
it's very
subjective.
Strange.
No, I don't think that's strange. I think that's a natural outcome of this podcast. The music that I've listened to over the life of the podcast, I have to say my favourite tunes have always been my favourite ones, because that hasn't really changed that much. But Gem X is a good example of a Hulsbeck piece of music where he is a master. He's a master of melody.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And if you listen back to, and that's why prior to that, my favourite Hulsbeck piece was always Starball, because of that exact reason. Because Starball is a great song. It's a great, it fits in that, and that's what makes Turrican 2 on the Amiga such a powerful, because all of his pieces of music for that were more like songs. And that's the Hulsbeck power, isn't it? But, we overlooked certain pieces of music. We were quite casual about Cybernoid 2. Those are amazing pieces of music for the C64. I don't know where we're gonna figure it all out. I think back to some of the amazing pieces. Even Adam Gilmore's had some amazing stuff in there. But I think to some of the stuff that he did for, some of the games he did, Draconis springs to mind. I think of some of the Maniacs and Noise stuff, but not necessarily all the stuff. You've got Ray and Overhand with Last Ninja 3. Then you've got the stuff like the Denon stuff, where you've got Zamzara and stuff like that. And just there's so many great pieces of music in there. And then you have to contend with the Galway, the Yeah Kung Fu's, the Parallaxes, the Rambos, the Green Berets. And Green Beret is astonishing. And I actually back-to-backed Rambo and Green Beret, which sounds very rude and quite painful, actually. But I mean that in a musical sense. I didn't bareback either of them, if that's where your mind went. But maybe I did. But I just listened to them. And also the other thing we have to think about, and this is something that we didn't really do, actually, at the time. But when I was pulling some of these tracks together, and not just in terms of the music as well, although we kind of never did it for the music, but we did it for graphics, is all the music for the game. So, it's easy to think Green Beret, for example, is a really good example. Green Beret is a amazing loading tune, an incredible title tune, lots of great in-game music, and we have to consider the whole thing. Rambo's the same. And I think we have to consider the suite of music. Now, that's not to the detriment of the Cybernoids, which don't have a lot of in-game music. It's one tune and a few of the others. But at the same time, when I listen to Knucklebusters is an amazing 17-minute in-game music. Yeah, but it's also an amazing title screen music. And it's also got really good high-score music. Exactly. So you've got to think of those things. So it's going to be and that's just the music category. We are absolutely royally fucked. But we'll do our best. We'll do our best.
We'll do our best. And you probably disagree, but it's one of the things. It's a very subjective thing. We'll obviously use the award winners for the last 8 years as a category. And I think
exactly.
Picking best game.
And we'll try and put links to the listenable versions of the music. So the podcast listeners can go and listen themselves. We welcome podcast views for our Breadbin of Breadbins. We want you guys to feed back to us via all the different variations. It's either zappedthepast@gmail.com or go to @zapped at X, or drop us an email, contact us if you're in the Discord. Share your thoughts. We want your thoughts for the final episode, because it's not just about us. This podcast has been a journey for us and everybody who listens to it. And, yes, we have our own thoughts, but I'm really open to have my mind changed about something that I've not thought of. And that's happened with this very Breadbins. I wasn't wholly struck on originally on the arcade one that won the best game, but I came to really, after replays, and I revisited every game that we played for this, by the way, for the Breadbin. So I went back and played them all, re-listened to them all. It's not like I just kind of, based it on my memory of them at the time. I went back and revisited them all, because that's what we do for this podcast, right? It's one of our amazing things, is that we're thorough. So for the Breadbin of Breadbins, I will be looking back at some of these games that come up, just to double check. And that's going to take some time to do, but I'd recommend, I know we say we play this game so you don't have to, but when it comes to the awards, if you've got a strong opinion about a game and you really want to vouch for it, then tell us. Get in touch, email, messages on X, contact us via the Facebook pages. Whatever you need to do in order to make your opinion heard for us, do that, because our podcast is nothing if not, it's our opinions, it's our thoughts. It has been over the past 224 episodes, as it will be 225 episodes. But more importantly, it's nothing without our amazing patrons, listeners, podcast friends, and everybody. If you've got an opinion and you really want it to be heard, we always make a point of listening to and reading out, if it's relevant and it's important, all of our amazing contributors. So if you've got a contribution to make, I would strongly advise that get in touch with us over the next week or so, probably week actually. Have your say. If you've got an opinion, you don't have to agree with us, right? I mean, I think that's fair, right, AD? I don't agree with AD half the time. I think he's crazy. But then again, I know that the fact he sets Eddie Thump on me if I disagree with him, and I get thumped in the stomach. And I've got a very tender stomach. If you touch my belly button, I tend to want Annie to poo. So I don't really like it to. I don't like it to be challenged. It's actually horribly true. So, but if you've got if you have an opinion for our final episode of this iteration, and by the way, I just want to say something actually about this, because there's a bit of a conception, I think, that this is it, we're done. This isn't the case. We've made it clear in a few things, but we'll just say this now. The podcast doesn't end. The podcast just enters the new phase. The new phase is shorter episodes for sure, but not massively shorter. But we're also still looking at C64 games. We've got all the 50-odd games or whatever it is for Commodore Force, whatever it's called. Force. Mm-hmm. We're going to look at those. And we're also looking at movies, sounds, stuff of the retro times of that time as well. So we're still looking at those things in a slightly different format. But there's more episodes that are just a bit shorter. And the patrons also get a third episode, which our non-patrons don't actually get. So it's not ending. It's just entering a new phase. It's still AD and I, we're still doing our thing. And of course, if you feel really strongly about it, then if you really want a memento of our 5 years together, and I know I do, and I know AD does, and he's got plenty of my mementos. He's actually stroking one right now. Bless him. There's a Zap to the Past book. Go to zapptothepastbook.com or go to the Kickstarter and search for Zap to the Past and just buy the book, because the book is everything you want in sort of 260 odd pages, a nice weighty tome, gloriously coloured in its resplendent blues and golds. You want that on your shelf. So if you want it, go and buy it, because you're pledging for it. And if you pledge, it will happen. So that's how it works, right, Aid?
It's exactly how it works, yes. It's like the Field of Dreams. It's the Book of Dreams. If you pledge it, it will come. So, go and pledge. zapptothepastbook.com. It goes live next Friday upon us recording. So that's the 23rd of April.
23 April.
Yeah, and it runs for a month. And if you are, don't forget we're going to be going to Zap Live in May.
Yes,
May 16th.
Yes, we are. Come.
So if you're thinking,
us.
Why should I buy this book? I want to talk to you. Well, come talk to us at Zap Live. We'll be about. You won't miss us, because we'll be in our t-shirts like last time.
Exactly. We're recording a bit of a. We're recording,
which might cause a problem, sort of thing. I don't know if they'll let us in, but just t-shirts.
We're straight up shirt cocking it. That's what we're doing. Straight up shirt cock all the way. And for AD, Birkenstocks. For me, straight up Adidas Campus Zeros. I'm not a Birkenstock fan, but AD likes the shirt cock his Birkenstocks, which is fair. We're all there.
You're just saying. I don't even know what you're saying now. I don't know any of that bit. I'll take your word for it.
Unfortunately, I don't think podcast friend Gary is going to be with us. It'd be nice if he was, but in all fairness, we have to let him out to do that. And we do
Last
that.
Last time
really.
we did that, it took us 3 weeks to get him back in.
Well, exactly that. And all he did is stand outside somebody's house and demand gasoline for about a week. He refused to walk away, and then he complained about the adverts and left at the end of it all. So
he did. Really strange. But that's Gary. He's a man of his own tastes. Those tastes don't involve adverts.
But they do involve Foster's polo shirts, which is fair because he liked it. So
he did like it. I think we should finish there. I think we're done.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Like I said, we're not done. We'll be back next week. Either the Breadbin of Breadbins or part one of the Breadbin of Breadbins, depending on the length. We don't know. And what format's going to take, we're not sure. But we'll be here next week. Kickstarter at zapptothepastbook.com. Go and register your interest.
Go register your interest, please. The book cannot happen without your pledges. And if you have a vested interest in making it a reality, then it's over to you really on that, because we're happy to do it, but we need your support. So go for it.
We certainly do. So as ever, on that note, we're going to say goodbye. I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham, zapptothepastbook.com Raddings.
And you have been listening to zapptothepastbook.com. I'll stop saying it, because if I don't, I'm going to get punched in the stomach. No, Eddie.
Oh, it's all he does.
It's all he does. It's what he does. I will see you again next week.
Thank you for listening to the Zap to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.